Hello and good morning, good evening, maybe good mid-afternoon 30 to some of you in some weird time zone, not sure. I am Electric here with the last playoff match in GSA's Season 1 leagues. What a just general league season this has been, and especially what a playoffs this has already been shaping up into. But it's got to come to an end someday, and here it is with Stravos versus Suisaiga, both of them with one match win. They're going to be playing for that final playoff spot in our SMO any percent league. This should be a race to really top it off. Let's see if this one's going to end up going into a race 3 maybe. Really extend that last playoff match as long as possible. Both of them diving right into the intro here. Gonna go ahead and have Cappy wake Mario up. And unfortunately, Limcube is a tad late. He will be here in just a moment. Had some issues at the store, it seems. Must be a really busy shopping day. I will do my best to fill in for him while he's gone. Hello, everyone. So as you can see, these guys going through Cap Kingdom very nicely. Really no major issues except when you're trying to optimize down to like a 220 at this level. These guys fighting for every second, and especially going into the frog room, there's a lot of weird situations that can kind of happen in this time, but both of them just about synchronized. Should be a really nice clean start going into Cascade. Yeah, exactly right. You really don't expect anything major to happen, but occasionally you'll see someone even fail left side or just something else really wild like that. But really, the Cascade is where you kind of expect the first player to pull off just a little bit. And you see a little bit of a difference in the frog vectoring strat there, but as long as you don't end up hitting the ledge and losing all of your forward momentum, it's pretty well okay. And left side is going to be good for Stravos, not for Suisaiga. He's going to have to get back up on top of the trash cap. Ooh, yeah, a very rough time loss from Suisaiga here. Really not what you want to see going into Cascade Kingdom. And I mean, a clean topper fight, but that's got to shake your mentality. It's such a reliable trick that you've done so many times. Yeah, Suisaiga just, he really didn't want to see this early time loss in race 1, but we'll end up seeing what he can do with the rest of this race, because we've seen all sorts of resyncs and just back and forth from all sorts of our racers. As we get that lovely little orchestral hit real fast, and the really long title showing. It's really cool when you first play the game, but when you're in a speedrun, and especially when you're at that beginner level and your cap kingdoms are really variable, you start hating how long that the logo is on screen. As Stravos is going to be going for wet FMS here. And nice and clean, not even needing any sort of wall bounce here. And Stravos is going to be going for Dino Skip, using the more reliable beginner lineup. Seen some people take a much tighter angle around the perimeter of the island that the dinosaur is on, and so that typically ends up being just a fraction of a second faster, albeit a little bit more dangerous than just pulling forward and holding left. And it seems that my impersonation skills will be getting a lot better. Hello, Limcube. How are you doing?
Good day, sir, and welcome everybody, obviously, once again to this match. Grocery store lines are nasty, so a little bit of a delay right here, but happens to the best of them. But looks like Stravos is actually able to get a tiny little early lead.
Yeah, Suisaiga missing left side, so actually recovering a decent bit of time here in Cascade to kick off this race. Nice to see them still pretty close, hopefully going into sand. They still have that moon clip left to go.
And funnily enough, this moon clip has actually been such a big deal. It used to be probably the easiest moon clip at the start, because we used to use a strategy that's pretty safe. You position yourself on the chest on the right side, take your time, and then time the backflip. But now runners obviously pushing the game even still try to go for this fast chest flip, open the chest as they approach it, and then time a pretty tricky backflip to even get the clip. But that obviously comes with some risk of missing it.
Yeah, and we're certainly seeing this game pull into the much more risky level of optimization, where there's not a whole lot of room for safe strats left in the run. If anything else will end up saving those fractions of
Right.
seconds.
Yeah, Stravos coming up right here, and he actually opened the chest a little bit too early, which would have been optimal if he was able to time the back throw, but it looks like actually both of our runners will miss chest clip in this one. Kind of as we hyped it up to be this pretty tricky trick. But we still have at least one more race to go after this, so maybe they can get their revenge.
Oh, absolutely. And Suisaiga definitely pulling closer. Looked like the top of Mario's head did start to clip through, so maybe he'll be able to make the proper adjustments before that next race. But we will be seeing them go ahead and go into sand. Now, I believe you commentated at least one of the previous matches between these two. What should we expect out of their Sand Kingdoms? Do you think either of them will just go absolutely insane and go for the late crate?
Yeah, both actually. I was able to commentate both of them. We haven't seen late crate at all in this playoff series. Not only this, but actually in all of the series. So I don't expect it today. Stravos has this little secret technique here coming in right now, what he calls the medium fast action guide. Yeah, that would look like a pretty fast mash. That's, I think, the biggest advantage that he has. But Sand has actually been a big part of the series. We've seen some big mistakes from either of those. Actually, Sand has been important in this matchup.
And I mean, rightfully so. It is, even though it's so early on, it is certainly one of the more difficult kingdoms just due to the sheer amount of optimization. Stravos will be going in for this quick top of the tower moon. Nice and easy once you get the rhythm down for these initial dives.
Yep. Looks like a good spin point here as well. This is the room we would cut in this most optimal sand route. I'm still very excited to see if we might see anyone try for that during pace. Would be interesting, but I mean it's so risky, and pace at pace I can see that the nerves are even on a whole new level now that you actually have to race in front of a live crowd, because once again this is obviously definitely the last qualifier for Super Mario Odyssey. After this we will know our lineup for this game at pace.
Yep, and that'll be really exciting in the conclusion of these races to know for certain who's going to be moving on and facing each other in that group stage coming up.
Exactly. Now, Dram coming up here. At least for Stravos.
With a nice spin Dram. Looks like it's going to be clean. And SuisaigaW also with the ice Dram. And both of them with the nice captures. Very beautiful to see. In fact, SuisaigaW actually getting the bullet bill, I think, a little bit further out than you normally do, since the camera didn't end up flipping into the 2D section for a minute.
Yeah, he actually got like a cap return jump on this little fence thingy he jumped off, making this a little bit more optimal. But it's still interesting to see how pretty much only left side is the one trick between these two guys. We haven't really seen any other difference so far. Both of them actually ended up missing chest clip, a little bit of issues in the boss fight in Cascade.
Yep. And I mean, as long as you're getting a really nice sand, and especially on Stravos' side, as long as you're not losing more than, like, say, 10 seconds before you exit sand in a race situation, you're pretty good. But these missed Sphinx clips could impact that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Not grabbing the most amount of coins, something that I noticed. It's still fine as long as you are above 100. You can probably get enough coins to go to snow first. But I mean, we are going to be seeing different routes of these guys regardless, especially going into lake and into wood, which is something that has been really interesting in this specific matchup. Stravos. Ooh, crashing the bullet bill. That's a weird one.
Yeah, for whatever like, a lot of people may not realize this, that bush actually has collision detection as well, and so that corner's a little bit tighter than you might think, because at least I thought initially that, oh, that bush isn't gonna make the bullet bill explode. It does. It's really weird.
Yeah,
and especially when you're trying to go fast, getting the proper cornering, it's just really rough.
Exactly, because you technically do want to throw in 2 boosts at that section. To speed up the bullet bill even more, and once that boost comes out, the control of it might be a little bit limited. So steering into that brush and not being able to get that first cycle, losing a little bit more time. Now, I'm interested to see how much that's going to affect his bird cycle. Stravos had some issues on that second clip, but had the bird in a pretty nice spot. For Sui, the bird's actually a little bit further ahead, but he should still be able to catch it here, so not a big issue for him. Was a little bit better on that swings clip.
Just a tad suboptimal. Yeah, wow, that was a single throw, right?
That was a dive even. Like, you usually see people land and then long jump, but it was even cleaner. He like dove out of the first spin throw and then long jumped over. That was really hot. But Sui is actually probably going to be able to make it as well. Very nice notes from both of them.
Yeah, really, really clean sand overall. Just again, a couple of minor bobbles, but coming through relatively unscathed, especially on Stravos' side. We'll see how Lake ends up going, and then going into, of course, Wooded.
And going into Lake, this is going to be the first kingdom where we will actually see some difference in routing once again. Stravos not opting for this Lake clip quite yet, something that he hasn't been doing already during this season. He has been messing around with it. Espa actually, funnily enough, brought up that he was the first person to ever get like a full level world record with this strategy. But it is extremely hard. Not only do you have to clip fast, that out of bounds movement is... Yeah, there's nothing quite like that. Like, it's even harder than the one in Wooded. You need to make your inputs precise. I guess the Wooded one is hard if you want to go fast. But we are probably going to be seeing SuisaigaW opt for that instead. So we are seeing some difference here in this kingdom.
Yeah, and one little minor thing too is that Stravos will end up taking I think it's like a 1.5 2 second loss in Metro Kingdom later on due to the box coming up telling him about the checkpoint for the first time. Kind of interesting that, yeah, I mean, Lake Clip is certainly an extremely difficult trick, but guys like Chaos and Nicro and all those other like really top level players have certainly pioneered the trick's use in runs, and it's kind of interesting to see people still in the playoffs able to keep using that more traditional route.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly not a big deal. I'd say on average, the contenders in this league have been saving time with it. Like, whenever you get a good one, you save a nice chunk, and even if it's a little bit more sloppy, you might not get the perfect time save. It's especially important to avoid that fake clip where basically Cappy clips, but Mario will not. SuisaigaW avoiding that successfully, getting Cappy to clip the second try. So definitely saving time here over Stravos. But yeah, on average, this is something that runners are picking up, obviously. Stravos will in the future as well, I'm sure. But he's confident enough to say that he won't need it yet.
Yeah, and that's certainly more valuable than I believe, like totally optimally, it only saves like maybe 15 seconds. I think it's even less than that, right?
Oh yeah. It's like the best Lake clip you could ever get is probably saving you like 7 or 8 even only.
Oh wow, I didn't actually realize it was that low. For some reason, I thought it was at least 10. So, but of course, not having to deal with the Rengo fight at all. A certain nice little touch. The Rengo fight, it's really easy once you get the actual moves down, or just completely cheesing it. But the cutscenes, of course, as you're seeing here, is very, very brutal time eating.
There is a little bit of an upside, and I was mentioning how Stravos was actually quite low on coins. He didn't fully abuse that, but when you hit Rango, it spawns in 2 coin rings, and there's a strategy to end the fight over the spin throw, collecting all of these coins. Stravos didn't go for that, but he still got, like, I think 8 extra coins, which wouldn't save you much time, but makes it a little bit more comfortable to go for Rango there. You can pretty surely go to Snow. It's especially something that runners like to do in attempts because they hate messing up their splits, and if you go to Seaside, obviously you miss out on those, but not a big deal in the race.
Yeah, you typically don't expect the splits to really matter in races unless you're in like little curb situation or something like that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That run was something else. But now going into Wooded, we are going to be seeing a second little difference here. That's at least what I'm assuming from watching the first and second time these guys met. Obviously, this is currently the last best of 3. Both of them have won one series, and actually both of them have won their respective series 2-0, which is quite interesting. And this is, I mean, we brought up that this is like such a traditional matchup already. These guys have been head-to-head so much in the past already. But we are going to be seeing the tree route coming out from SuisaigaW here, going to the right after the shop, capturing an uproot and collect this tree moon planted in the tall tree instead of the story moon, which is a little bit faster, but a lot trickier.
Yeah, and I've certainly always loved seeing the tree route, but as you said, it can be pretty tricky, and a lot of players still end up kind of taking the wide movement around the piranha and end up eating some of that time save anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And to be fair, a lot of this time save actually comes from that upward section in general. Like, obviously, there's this theoretical timesheet, and whenever you actually see how fast the section can be, you know, okay, this has to be the fastest route, but not everybody is able to match that in an actual attempt. So we'll see. That's actually quite important. SuisaigaW already with great movement coming up on that top platform, but this upward is important. Actually, Stravos at the same time flying through the out of bounds. Sui some good upward movement, but I think the most crucial
Oh,
part.
missing the moon though, nearly walking off. Wow.
Wait, he didn't miss the moon though. Wait, he did?
Yeah,
he missed
he
the
started
moon.
walking away
No,
and
he
had
didn't.
to turn himself around for it.
No, he didn't miss the moon though. It's just because Sui is one moon ahead from the tree.
Oh, right. Sorry, no, I was just talking about the movement there was kind of sketchy. It looked like he was just
there was
a
a
little bit further
camera
away from the hitbox that he thought.
It was really weird. I've never seen that personally. It was he like grabbed the moon and then the camera turned like into the out of bounds section. I have personally never seen that. Huge respect actually for Stravos to be able to keep his dives straight, because I was expecting him to maybe not make it back in bounds.
Yeah, very clean movement so far from both of these guys. SuisaigaW though will potentially be able to hold on to that little lead from late clip if he's able to execute the ending of this kingdom as flawlessly as Stravos has so far.
Yeah, this is actually a situation we've seen him in quite a lot. Someone is in the maze, the other one is about to grab that story moon, and it looks like a healthy, like 30 seconds lead, but it's obviously not that in that case, and Suisaiga doesn't have to pick up this moon. He's not going to have to deal with the cutscenes, not going to have to deal with picking up that moon, just having to go around the corner, but Stravos obviously still in the lead, now being able to try himself at Flower Road skip.
Look at those healthy vectors from Suisaiga's side. That was really good.
Gets some nice rolls on that little ramp on the side, but actually not able to keep his speed falling down. Will easily scale this big gap here though. Also being able to make his way over to this knot, and then Stravos entering the tower right now. We could probably expect something like a 10 to 15 second lead from him at the moment.
And Suisaiga, meanwhile, with the very clean piranha-less Flower Road skip, going to be moving into the tower himself.
And this last section of Wooded can't be underrated, even still. Usually we would use to just jump up and fight the boss, and then that would warp us back to the ship. But these 3 moons are a little bit fast, actually around 5 seconds if you perform very well. And let's see if these guys are able to do. So the most crucial thing is actually almost right at the start, trying to avoid that little stun that you can get, because the distance you fall is usually enough for Mario to be stun locked for like 2 seconds, almost like a bonk. But both of them avoiding that successfully. Sui a little bit slower there on his move. He lost his momentum on one of these ledges, but is overall gonna be just fine.
Yep, as Stravos is making his way through pipes pretty cleanly, it appears.
That is pretty crucial as well. This is the last final challenge here in Wooded. Once again, this room is on this tight cycle. And actually in this series, we've seen Stravos lose a lot of time to this room once. These guys have been getting really good at this. This room has pretty much been in the route almost throughout the entire history of any percent. The one like month where it wasn't in the route was after we found Nutclip and everybody was doing the boss fight instead of these 3 last moons. But after some more timing and figuring out the right movement, it was clear that these 3 moons were still going to be faster.
Yeah, and those little finds, it's kind of interesting how they took as long as they did, and how all of them were like so spread out. Like
Exactly.
it's really interesting that, to me at least, that a lot of these finds didn't just happen one after the other as the timing started occurring, as people started like creating these really optimal routes between moons and such.
Yeah, honestly, being involved in that a huge amount. It's been so much that we kind of had to go like step by step. People had to adjust for like the out of bounds movement, and everybody was obviously looking at improving that. And once that was figured out, we would take the next step, which was removing the boss fight, and then we removed like stuff in sand and so on and so on. And right now we are at a level where it's looking pretty good. There's not much that is like on our minds currently, other than some luncheon ideas that might not even turn out faster. But looking at a sweet spot right now in the speedrun. Now Stravos is actually 15 seconds ahead after Wooded here, going into this cloud fight, which is pretty streamlined, not too much to think about. Stravos is actually missing one of the Bowser manipulations there. You want him to, you basically want him to punch him 2 spaces away from you, so he only jumps once. That's not a big deal. Going into Lost though, this is probably where you want to pay some more attention to.
Yeah, the run certainly picks up very significantly in difficulty going into Lost and Night Metro. What was it that SuisaigaW lost so much time in Wooded on though? The stream did cut out for just a moment for me, and it appeared ahead going in from Lake, so.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Oh, okay. It must have just been the cutscene.
Yeah, it probably was the cutscene. He shouldn't have been in the lead in Lake. He made up some time there, but I think he slightly might have. I think the lead should have actually stayed around even. In Wooded, he went for the faster route, but he had some issues there at the ending portion. Definitely saved time in Lake, but other than that, it's mainly like the difference that we are looking at is mainly probably due to sand still.
Oh, he was 11 behind after Lake. Apologies. Yeah, I misunderstood the cutscene whenever I saw it then. Because I remember seeing SuisaigaW on the visual right after selecting Wooded Kingdom as Stravos was skipping a text box, and I think I just assumed it was a different text box.
That can easily happen, especially like sometimes you see the screen closing, but it's actually not the screen closing after the globe. Instead, it's the screen closing after you actually already leave the kingdom. That might have been what it was. Like Stravos was already flying to the next kingdom.
Yeah,
there's a lot of these cutscenes that like kind of fool you. But so far, oh, I was about to. Oh no, that's the worst case.
Oh no!
I don't.
Sweet is going to be losing just major time. That is insane damage. Klepto Swift here for flex time wasting. He's going to be sawing the entire run in half just to prove how much time accidentally getting Cappy caught is going to waste.
And this is interesting. Now Sui is trying to prove that he's able to kind of adapt to the situation. It looks like he isn't, because there's definitely a faster way of moving here other than casually activating the staircase. Probably actually not really having dealt with that at all. I personally haven't seen Sui ever make that mistake before. Stravos actually had that happen to him last series, but I've never seen Sui had that happen, and he looked a little bit clueless what to do there. I think what happened, he wanted to go for the fastest strat there, throwing Cappy into a long jump, and yeah, ended up missing the platform. That's one of the biggest mistakes, and probably the biggest mistake. That's more painful than a death and Lost.
Yeah, so effectively all of the land on like ground level is a trigger for Klepto past that initial bridge. The upstairs sort of portions that we end up running on a bunch, as long as you end up. Oh, you're fine.
No, I'm fine. I was just laughing because Sui is actually doing the exact movement like it never happened, you know? Oh god. Okay, he missed that torpedo right there. But he spin pounds the staircase even though it was already basically activated, you know? Like he doesn't know how to deal with this.
It's just the muscle memory really kicking in. You know, for a moment, I thought he was gonna try to like redo the last few moons movement aside from these trapezals without Cappy, a la Donkey. See you later, Crappy.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Just try to get Cappy back at the end of the kingdom to teleport back to the Odyssey and grab your last couple of moons. But yeah, so yeah, as long as you don't fall like that, you will always avoid Klepto's trigger. But unfortunately, when you take a significant fall like that, that just adds insult to injury. As we see Stravos already at the first moon in Night Metro, SuisaigaW just dealing with the cutscene, getting out of Lost here. So hopefully Stravos will be able to hold it together and get a 2-cycle Wiggler as well as just a good indoor City Hall. Because those 2 mistakes right there could certainly match the massive time loss we just saw from Suis.
We've actually seen a similar situation in the second race of last series. Now, I think Stravos was even in a worse spot because he had the Klepto trigger happen to him. He also took a death and he just really looked like his gameplay looked demoralized. He like stood around, he was like questioning himself, but he actually recovered pretty well, played really solid up until luncheon, where another really unfortunate mistake happened to him, and he wasn't able to actually win that point at the end. But it is always worth to say these situations, while even though they might look extremely desperate, they don't necessarily mean the race is over quite yet. There is Mecha Wiggler coming up. We've seen some tight calls even getting the 2 cycle, which could immediately change this race up a little bit. But yeah, a lot of gameplay to go through, not even 50% through the run. So shouldn't call this one over quite yet.
Oh, exactly right. I mean, we use the phrase "anything can happen" a lot, but it is very true, especially in a speed game like this. That ultimately it does have a reputation for being somewhat forgiving movement-wise, as far as like, you know, if you're a little bit off of a like say you're trying to position yourself for a pretty precise wall kick. If you jump at a bit of an off angle, you can pretty well correct that, especially when you have some really high experience with the game. But when you make these significant errors and take deaths and end up missing these huge skips like the Klepto skip, the game will not hesitate to really punish you for it. So, and those things occur basically anywhere, especially when you get into luncheon and can take those really rough deaths on the end, like after the mountainside and such. And it just, there really isn't much of an opportunity until you finish out pillars for you to really say, okay, I'm done with the massive time loss. Nothing can go wrong now.
True. Stravos avoiding the first potential massive time loss. He didn't have the best Wiggler, though. His last shot there was kind of denied the hitbox that the Wiggler kind of has while he's on that wall. He can basically block himself there when he's overlapping himself, so he wasn't able to get the best shots at the end, giving Sui some leadway to catch up. But I would absolutely agree, this game is throughout most of the gameplay, it is kind of nice in terms of what backups you can do. Sometimes you can just grab another moon. There's games that are a little bit less forgiving with backups, but this game offers some, but there's still sections where there's nothing you can do, such as the mistake that Sui had happened to him and lost there. You can't like redo that Klepto trigger. It's going to be the reality you have to deal with.
Yeah, and it's like, I think the second that the trigger activates, the game saves or something like that. So even if a reset didn't just take so much time, it still wouldn't exactly be viable.
For sure. Now, Sui on his screen with a pretty phenomenal Mecha Wiggler. He got hit at the very end, but it was like the smallest mistake that he had there. Other than that, it was really clean. At the same time, Stravos is able to get a nice drive-by screw clip, being able to lean into the cage while he's just passing by. Very nice.
And now going to set up for that delayed capture. And that pull angle is one that you have to practice a decent amount, and especially with this game not having like a proper practice ROM, so to speak, where you can like save positions and like instant reset levels and such like that. Like, it's really impressive for these guys to be able to develop that consistent precision on little things like that, despite having somewhat inefficient methods of practice.
Funnily enough, strides are actually being made at the moment. There is some sort of tool being developed at the moment, which is already functional. We can, I mean, it's not at the level that SM64 would, for example, be, but we actually do have options now to install tools that allow us to at least reset all of the moons with a single warp. Like, you can warp and the moons will be basically respawned in, which is already it's like great progress to what we had before, and we'll see what that brings in the future as well. So this game is actively being worked on as well now, as far as that goes.
I believe it was actually Siba who we see in chat that is making the progress with that, correct?
Yeah, I think he's actually coding it for the most parts, and I've seen Chaos already used it to pretty good efficiency.
Yeah, and it's really going to be wild seeing just how optimized this game gets after those really efficient practice rules get started, so that you can just repeat the same 5 seconds of movement over and over until you get them just completely perfect.
Now, we just saw the section where Stravos lost seemingly 1.5 seconds out of nowhere. It won't really be visible here because obviously SuisaigaW is a big distance apart from him. But he just had that, you mentioned that earlier, Electric Lake. He just had that Cappy text happen to him since he didn't do the Lake clip route in Lake.
Yep, just a nice little cherry on top of the Lake clip cake there, being able to save just a couple of seconds here in Metro. Maybe you get yourself even a free gold once you end up implementing Lake Clip into your runs. And the clean pool moon grab from Stravos.
Also getting the now new known bullseye buddy moon pretty well there. Stravos being able to line up that ground pound. You basically, if you can, you want to start that ground pound as soon as possible because there's varying falling speed in this game. Falling with the ground pound will be faster there than just falling neutral. So as soon, like, the earlier you can go into the ground pound state, the better.
Yeah, just certainly an exercise in precision yet again, trying to line up even without the shadow act, because the shadow takes a moment to spawn. You do have to wait just a little bit longer to end up ground pounding if you're going to wait for that shadow. And nice clean movement to the top of the skyscraper here from both our guys. This can certainly be a big time loss for beginners that just can't get a solid pattern of movement up there. I know that I would always lose massive time just trying to do some really silly jumps or whatever.
Yeah, this is initially pretty weird. Like what I do now and what I started doing is, I think many people do that, is like using audio cues. There is visual cues, so it's hard to react, but audio cues are probably easy at this point if you do play with audio, because Mario makes that sound when he goes for the backflip, and if you time it correctly, that's probably your best bet.
Yep, audio cue is certainly a undervalued gem, I feel like, in a lot of speed games to a lot of runners. There's some people that they get really great times just through visuals alone, but I definitely feel like people with with that ability to use audio cues effectively can have a bit of an advantage.
Okay,
As Stravos
now...
going to be going for Seaside first, he did recognize that coin count not being quite up to snuff, and gets bodied by the Goomba.
Attacked by the pirate Goomba right there. Now, I was actually curious how many coins he exactly had. 87 is a weird value. I feel like he should have been good. Now, let me think. There's 3 coins in Snow on your way, 3 coins in Umbrella, but honestly, respectable decision. I was about to say, you can probably get 13 coins almost without time loss, but going to Caesar would probably still be better, because it's just literally one input. So recognizing that well and making decisions. SuisaigaW is going to go to Snow, so we are going to see these guys split up a little bit.
Yep, Stravos with some nice clean movement though, and yeah, until that fish tunnel gets routed out, you just have so many free coins in Seaside that if you're more than just a little bit iffy, it's certainly a lot better to just go ahead and come here instead.
Absolutely. Once again, we like to refer to this kingdom as Stravi's side, even though he doesn't technically hold the fastest time for this anymore. Something that he kind of pioneered again, as far as like paying close attention to the fish movement goes, and even specific movements for, yeah, throughout the kingdom really. So this is something that he has good knowledge on. Hopefully being able to show this off in this one. In this section of Seaside, it's pretty much all down to this fish move. You just want to take the cleanest line possible, and then obviously going into the out-of-bounds portion of that kingdom.
Yep, and especially important with maintaining momentum with the fish is just straight lines, as you see Stravos with the very angular turns. Saving ultimately more time than you might think just with that really optimal swimming over someone that just isn't paying as much attention to those lines.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's going to be going into that fish clip in just a second.
Now, this is always the risky part, and something that I actually haven't seen Stravos at least have big issues with. This is probably the thing he practiced the most whenever the new Seaside ways have been uncovered. And he, I think, also at least used to have the best theoretical time segment for this. Gets a very nice position there on that grab of the moon, and yeah, even keeps his momentum throughout. Very nice. Suisaiga at the same time actually performing the snow clip there, being able to get the moon clip on that wall, cutting out some movement. So double out of bounds happening, and very well performed by both of these guys.
Yep, that moon clip is always so nice to see. Just a shame that there's no really fast way of setting it up reliably yet. But it's always nice to see when the yellow does happen to go through.
Suisaiga unintentionally blowing all of the spinies into the poison right there, which isn't a big deal. It's just a little bit more optimal if you can leave one spiny alive to move closer to the moon, making that camera panning a little bit shorter.
Yeah, it just looked like that one that you typically use, like I guess you could call it like the front left one, just wasn't quite in the right position. Just seemed too far off to end up reliably shoving him into that little pocket like you want to. As he now enters the Goomba room. Fun fact, my PB, which is not very good, let me go ahead and preface this by saying that, I actually got a pixel perfect ledge clip here and clipped to my death on this long jump after this moon right here after the Goombas.
Wow. Now that's actually really awesome just because this is actually a room where we've been thinking about all the time. Like, if there's ever a task, this would probably be our best bet for a ledge clip to be actually used. We would probably actually end in this room, pick up this moon first, and then actually ledge clip through this little door. So we would never need those Goombas. You know, that would actually be awesome if we could like reliably do that. At least Tiles is probably going to be able to do so. That would basically skip out having to collect the Goombas, having to wait for that ice pillar to fall, and even that little animation on that switch. But that's obviously something we can't really even think about in real time.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see some sort of like a corner setup found for it where you do a couple of backflips and a dive and go right through, but certainly going to be a while, if ever, before something like that is found, unfortunately.
Now, Stravos is certainly still in the lead, as expected. It is interesting and important to say, though, that Snow is definitely the longer split out of the two. Stravos here actually also getting Snow clip. These guys have been probably the very best in the league at this clip. And maybe actually, I mean, Chaos and Micro both have been looking at it. Chaos also performing that pretty often. Ooh, Sui getting the optimal move. That always looks awesome if you can vector yourself into Cappy there. And good Snowdome as well.
Yeah, really nice clean movement for Stravos. It looks like the Spiny is going to be in decent position for that pocket. And he does manage to get this little skip here. So as you can see, yeah, by delaying that Spiny like that, you're able to get the camera pan to be much shorter and have Mario just dive right in.
He was super close to that moon. That was really well done. Right, and now Sui is going to be going into that much shorter split Seaside. He has yet to do that, and if you're just tuning in now, don't be too afraid. It's not like Sui is leading by like 3 minutes. It's more like Stravos leading by around 1 minute, which is a good lead that he mainly acquired due to a big mistake and lost, where Suisaiga ended up kleptering Trigo. I was honestly going to say triggering Klepto.
So wait a minute. He ended up having the compulsion to steal the Klepto trigger from the game. Got it. Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, he Klepto Trigo, definitely. Trigo is definitely a great name. Alright. Oh, Star was actually missing that triple jump, having to back up. Not a big deal. Into long jump, losing some time. Yeah, overall, I think in this mid-game portion, Sui has been playing a little bit better, so we might see that lead maybe shrink to less than a minute after these respective kingdoms, especially because Stravos' big mistake at the start of Seaside, where he ended up getting hit by that Goomba.
I'm sorry to go back to this, but I feel like Trigo would be the guy to, like, a few years from now, go ahead and start trying to take the SMO any % world record from Queso.
Dude, Trigo, that's a great name. If it's still free, you should better get it now before it becomes a successful meme.
Yeah, invest now.
Let's look at Snowdome, though. This is the big trick. If Stravos was to miss this here, maybe once, even twice, that's the big deal. We haven't really seen 2 misses, I think, in recent times, but we have certainly at least seen some misalignments. Yeah, once again, he goes for this very quick setup.
Yeah, wasn't quite thinking the lineup was good the first time. Is able to get a clean first try, though. And so now we can see this pretty substantial lead that Stravos has developed, as Suisaiga is going to be still needing a few moons out of Seaside. Kind of unfortunate seaweed cluttering there. So having to... That was a really nice and clean backup with that spin. Probably not losing much time at all with the typical delay that those moons have before you can collect them.
Okay, Sui going into the fish clip right here, and he actually has been giving me some panic attacks here. He is prone to move pretty close to that wall. I think he won't do it this time. Yep, has a good position there when grabbing that moon, and makes that count.
Yeah, that was some very nice movement. Definitely it can be a little scary, especially like from that dead-on camera angle that you can't see quite as well just how close to the inbound section you are. And the first time I ever tried doing it in a run, I did clip back inbounds, and that was real fun because I believe the Sphinx, it's like the third option.
It's the third, yeah.
And so, like, I selected the first one wrong, selected the second one wrong. I was like, okay, it's not going to be the third one, fourth one wrong. Like, I wasted all the time that I could. It was terrible.
That is quite unfortunate. But that's fine. That's the hard way you learn this. Maybe in the future you are going to be able to do something like... When I think actually even all unique moons at this point just does this clip instead. Because... I actually... No, they can't. Because I was about to say... I'm not sure if many runners of the speedrun know this, but there's always technically 2 moons from a Swings quiz. The first one being just answering the Swings once to obtain X to the vault, but the second one then answering some more questions and actually getting another moon. Which this moon is obviously very slow because you have to answer like 4 or 5 questions, I think, and then there's even like a cutscene. It's sadly not a moon that you could use even with most optimal menuing.
Yeah, so unfortunately going to be restricted to that AUM category.
Right, and Stravos obviously already through that boss fight pretty long section of Luncheon. Assuming his lead should still be a little bit over a minute. This fight takes around 50 seconds actually, whenever you start touching that trigger, having the entire fight, then grabbing the story moon cutscene, and then there's even like another cutscene lifting up that bridge from the lava.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that you have to watch that bridge cutscene considering that you can't even really use the bridge. It's just still
it's
too
like
slow.
yeah. The World Peace category actually does this, like some cool movement there where you get a triple jump off a little wooden pole. But we need that subroom now. Actually, something that I've been thinking probably the most as far as recent route changes go. If everybody wants to hop in some Odyssey routing, wants to be the next big route changer. This moon right here that Sui is getting right now is definitely the slowest in the route. It's fast, right? That subroom technically is fast. You just jump around the corner and get the moon, but both loading zones and having to drop down there are certainly not optimal. So there's a couple of moons that we could maybe in the future speed up good enough to be able to cut this. This is definitely the worst, the Black Sheep. The slowest one. I mean, other than the story moon, which we at this point we are required to get that to progress to Kingdom.
Yeah, in order to be able to actually get to the meat in the stew on the very end to get that multi.
And we tend to route out multi-moons a lot, since they are usually slower. Like there's a boss fight as cutscene, but that one is the very best one. We don't have to do anything for it really other than capturing that meat up top. And then that moon also warps us back to the Odyssey because we're super far away from it anyway. So that is basically the best moon at Luncheon, funnily enough. So we need that at the moment. There might be options in the future that allow us to route out all of the story stuff in here. But that's not interesting yet. It is interesting, but not our topic right now, since Stravos is coming up at turnip clip here. And actually, this has been a pretty big trick in this series as well. Stravos getting an extremely unfortunate turnip clip mishap last time.
Yeah, and the turnip just way too far this time around, but the Spiny keeping his distance well away, so really nice to see.
Nice. Yeah, okay, that's totally fine. Having to reset the turnip once there, can't be too mad about it. Optimally, obviously, you would throw the turnip in the perfect spot the first time you throw, but that's still totally fine.
Now, what would actually be really, really cool to me is if somehow some sort of major glitch were found to be able to give Mario just pretty insane momentum while vectoring, and somehow actually using the cracked island that's way off in the distance right now from where Stravos is. I think it's like way off to the right. That'd be a pretty neat island to end up incorporating into the route to get rid of that singular moon with that double loading zone.
Yeah, sadly enough, I don't think that moon would be quite fast enough. It's an awesome moon, especially when done perfectly, doing those ground pounds there. It actually ends up like a 21-second moon. That one in the sub area would be, I think, close to like 17, 18. but
Oh,
it's a rip. It's an amazing island. There's also the a little 2D moon there, but both of those a little bit too slow.
Yeah, it kind of just goes to show just how fast these moons are in this route
Yeah,
already.
yeah. We are certainly at like a less than 16, 17 seconds threshold for moons. It might be even less. I don't exactly know. I know it for the longer categories because it matters more there because there's more options, especially in the post game. But yeah, moons have to be pretty insane to be in any percent. And there's just some very few exceptions where most of the time we just don't have better options. I mean, pretty much all of the time until we find them.
Yep. No better options until we find them. That's certainly a good way of putting it. Certainly true. Suisaiga with a nice turnip clip. I don't think that we actually mentioned that. So neither of them having a lot of issues. Suisaiga is saving that little bit of time over getting that first try position, it looked like. As now Stravos going into RBH, or RBM, sorry.
Ruined Bowser's Moon, Ruined being the first of them. He did end up getting a 44-16 fade out here, something that we might want to take a look at when Sui ends up finishing this kingdom. Probably looking to be a little bit more than a minute even still. Having a little dialogue with Cappy here. Let's get that out of the way first. I think he's going to blow up at around 04 here. So we're looking at like 1 minute and 8 seconds as far as the lead for Stravos is concerned. We have seen him with major mistakes, major flaws in mech in one of these races, but he's looking like he's playing very well at the moment. So we'll see.
Yeah, and with how tight the mech strategies are at this point, it certainly anyone could end up losing major time to that just from one mistake falling off.
Would certainly be awesome to see this very last series also go to a game 3. That would be the ultimate storyline. These two guys they just have the magic, dude. It's the only series, by the way, the only matchup that has gone to a third series at all. We haven't seen only clean sweeps, but for the most part, actually, we've seen Nitro get a 4-0 in his matchup, and Chaos was able to do the same. Equan took one race of curbs, but this is obviously the closest one, which it makes sense. It's the 4th and 5th seed racing, but these guys are just something else when it comes to these races. Very awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that may even be the case across all of our tournaments, because I know that Cheese v Toast Rider was a 2-match. Vyro and Ouija, Vyro had to forfeit the second, so that was a 2-match. Punkay and Rock Chalk 2-match. And what was that last 7-star one? D Whatever was also a 2-match. It was D Whatever versus Benji or something like that. And so the whole 70-star league was 2-match, and I believe Celeste as well. So this is actually the only one out of our 3 leagues that has gone to a 3rd match. Really, really exciting to see.
Which absolutely doesn't mean, and actually quite the opposite, that the matches happening at pace, which we are going to get into in a second here, are going to be stomps. Because I just literally can't wait, especially for Odyssey. I mean, it doesn't matter who of these two guys really qualifies next, but just seeing people like Curbs and Chaos and Nick, and I'm obviously talking about Nitro Vida here, Nitro Vida and Chaos racing head-to-head in front of a live crowd, which will certainly actually probably at least influence their performance. I don't know yet if it's going to be positive, if it's going to be negative. Maybe they can adapt. Maybe they can actually harness like energy from having people cheer on them or like racing in front of a bigger audience. It's definitely going to be amazing to see. And if you guys don't know about Pace yet, which is our first competitive live speedrun event where these guys are actually qualifying for, it's actually in less than 2 weeks now, which is crazy to think about. It's something I've been looking up for obviously for a long time.
Yeah, for a few months now. On my end, at
exactly.
least.
You can actually still personally be there in person. Tickets still available. It's going to be in Laurel in Maryland. So if you guys still have a chance of actually getting some tickets, getting there, they are still available if you type an ! tickets. But even if you don't, if you're not close to the US, if you just want to watch that action unfold, we're obviously going to be streaming all of it 24/7 on this Twitch channel here. And I can't wait until we go there. And I think Electric, you're obviously also there as a commentator, as far as I'm aware.
Yep, I will be commentating the Celeste finals. Super excited about that. And I'm really excited too to see all the really cool showcase runs. That 120-star race is going to be just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, there's a lot of gems over there. Personally, also doing a run which I'm already practicing for. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, it was an Odyssey run, right? I seem to remember hearing about it, but I can't remember exactly what it was.
It's like a glitch showcase showing off glitches that we don't see in the run. So there's like a bunch. There's actually this game is actually pretty broken. We just can't use it, and I'll show why.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to any and all glitch showcases as well. The ones I'm really excited about too are those 2 OOT runs, that Faster Quest Hundo and then any %. Those should be both really, really exciting. Coming up, let's see how Stravos does on shards. Very nice shard grab there. The shard does have a pretty wide grab box for whatever reason. I think for whatever reason, Cappy is really well able to home in on those, just not anything else in the game. As Stravos getting pretty well bodied by that bomb.
Yep.
But I have seen a couple of races where someone's taken a couple of tries to hit that second shard just because of how far away you try to go for it for that optimization. So Suisaiga missing that ground pound, but able to go ahead and get it before the Ogre re-rises that hammer. Yeah.
Good stuff, and I agree. That's definitely the hardest shot. It's not really because of the like the way the homing works on the shots as you brought up. It's mainly because of the strat we use called the dive back. You want to move in on that shot, but as you throw Cappy, you already want to turn yourself around, basically diving into the other direction as that home in happens to be optimal. But makes that shot certainly the hardest.
It's very, very nice delayed capture strat from Stravos here. Let's see. Not going for the most optimal movement on that island there. It only saves like a cheeky second or so, but it's impressive when you know what the alternative is to that movement. What I'm talking about is you would think that as soon as you get off of the power line, you want to immediately throw Cappy towards that next power line, but it takes this weird delay to actually get the cap to go towards that power line. It'll just try to go straight forward most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, Sui actually had some awesome shots with it, especially his movement from the 3rd to the 4th shot was really pleasing to watch. He got like a huge roll cancel jump, almost entirely skipping out on that roof, and then had Cappy basically get that shot as it returned to him. That was really awesome to see.
Wow. I don't think I've seen anyone else do that. Is that like a IL mainly strat, I would think?
I don't think it was really intentional. Like I don't think I've also never seen anybody get as big of a jump from that roll cancel jump. And it just happened to work out that way. Now Sui is actually pretty good at this instant dive here. Yep, getting the nice angle. He's going to be able to capture that wire, making up some time overall here in Bowser's, I'd say.
Yeah, certainly getting a lot closer. And both these guys in that unfortunate Harriet first gang, you know.
What?
You do what you gotta do, but the Topper first gang definitely I feel like has the better luck overall. Here's my question for all of you Harriet first gang. Is there any category where Harriet first has an advantage?
Oh, yeah, for sure. All purple coins. We obviously know which is the best speedrun category in Super Mario Odyssey by far. Obviously, Harriet first, way more optimal since you want to get that angle for the purple coins.
Yeah, but there is a category too. I'm pretty sure that Topper first.
That's all Moon's now post game. Definitely a big meme category on the boards.
Oh, and all purple coins isn't a meme. Oh, okay.
By far the better. It is elitist category actually. All purple coins, big stuff.
Okay. We'll see which one gets into a GDQ first. You know, someone's gonna have to call security into the commentators booth.
That's actually interesting, dude. Because actually both of those are, no joke, both of those are extremely unique. All purple coins is super unique because the way routing works is so different. Like, you don't necessarily need much moons, but you still have to go all through the kingdom, so you actually need to route in the moons that are closest to all of the purple coins, and the objective is completely different. You even have to actually go through Mushroom. The game is not ending at the wire, right? Because you actually have to get out of the purple coins in Mushroom. Super unique category, the same for all moons, no post game. You have to get all of the moons before ending that game. A little bit unexplored, still much stuff to be found here. As far as that speedrun goes for the other categories, but right now let's focus on that mech fight here. Stravos is able to get a good climb at the start, hopefully ending this well with a target acquired hit.
Yep, and he does have those first 2 hits nice, landing right back on top of the mech for the rainbow phase. Sui with the very nice crates move here.
Alright, Harry was hit quite well. Actually lining up a little bit further back. I usually line up on that line. And
Nice target acquired.
Yeah, let's say nice.
A little bit.
It worked.
But it worked. Looks like he was pretty well right on the edge of that little dome, and just absolute I mean, I guess secondary precision because the initial lineup wasn't as precise as it needed to be, but was able to get that ground pound exactly where he had that very little room for it.
Yeah, he just had a little bit of a high spin jump going before he was able to come down, but as long as he gets it, that's all that matters. Missing that phase. Technically, if you react well, missing that phase is actually not too bad because the mech spits out a bird relatively quick. The worst phase you can miss is the one that Sui is on right now, because the mech will go into his stumping animation, then throw out like his rings before he even gives you a bird, so you can't do anything. It's the worst phase to fall. But obviously falling at all is always coming with a huge time loss. Around 30 seconds to even a minute if everything goes bad. So let's hope Sui is able to close this out, because we have seen both of these guys actually in this league had a huge mistake during Moon, but I ended up losing them around a minute, which is the lead that Stravos is currently dealing with. So let's watch this kingdom before we make any predictions for the outcome.
And SuisaigaW confirming with that target acquired that he is still in this race. You know, his current chance of winning a little bit dicey on that life support, but Stravos, as you just said, has made those critical errors before that could potentially, if they happen here, swing this race heavily in SuisaigaW's favor.
So Stravos is actually on an amazing run. He just got a 55-18 fade out here. If he gets a really nice moon, he can still get a mid 100. And his PB, I mean, the last time I checked was, I think, a 25, 1025. He might have gotten like an 18, actually. Now that I think of it, kind of want to recheck because he did some attempts recently. But that's amazing. Like, amazing pace from only some mistakes in that early section. A little bit of stuff in mid-game, but this is such a solid run.
And Stravos with these nice vectors to go ahead and start out here. Very, very clean movement. Not quite able to hit that secondary platform without that cap throw.
Okay, Stravos' PB on the boards is a 10030, which he probably can't beat. I mean, if everything goes insane, he can get like a high 3x, but that would require like an amazing wound. Still great stuff here going into swing slip, which he has to get because Sui is also not on a shabby run. Like, if Stravos gets this moon skip here, he's on 100 pace, but Sui also on 101 pace, so still great stuff.
Yeah, and very, very cleanly executed Moon's skip, especially with that running along the ridge and getting as far up on the red carpet platform as possible.
Sweet stuff indeed.
And Chaos lamenting the loss of the bomb vectors. Unfortunate. Just, you know, Stravos may as well reset without those vectors.
Yep, not quite getting the maximum distance. Vectors are a weird mechanic in this game. I don't know how it exactly works. Like, I obviously don't know in terms of code how the speed increase does exactly work. Like, do you get the maximum speed if you are exactly at 45 degrees, or is it like another angle we don't know? But when you get the clean vectors, you feel it. It's a big difference.
Oh yeah, and SuisaigaW kind of demonstrating how those vectors can be done cleaner than Stravos, actually able to do just a standard dive on the very end there rather than having to do the cap throw.
And funnily enough, it goes even better. There's like the best vectors you can have. You actually don't even need to dive. You just land on the other side and can just roll. That's like the best it can be. Looks pretty crazy. Vector's
certainly a finicky thing. And I think that what you were talking about with the exact 45, my understanding is that they work because when you're adding the horizontal and vertical speed caps, that resulting diagonal is, of course, larger than both of those individually. And so I think the closer you are to 45, it just may not be exactly intuitive with the third-person camera.
That's probably the thing, yeah. That makes it a little bit more tricky. But at least they are able to get into the Bowser fight unscathed. We've seen big mistakes here once again in Moonskip, where someone actually ended up having a death. Stravos is already done with the fight, going to be looking at a full minute lead here maybe. But this full minute is also this magical number that around the time that you're losing if you die during that 2D section. So
Yep.
that's probably going to be his last end boss.
Let's see how that section goes. I mean, just looking at this level of optimization, he's just holding ever so slightly out of the maximum forward to be able to traverse that line as closely to the center as possible, because Bowser turning is, of course, slower than Bowser's straight line running.
And even though runners are really good at this trick, sometimes, especially the second jump, is just a tiny bit off, and if that happens, you can get quite unlucky and fall all the way. Stravos is going to be able to avoid that, gets a very clean version of that jump, and is now scaling up towards the pillar room.
Yeah, let's hope he gets a nice pillars. We are certainly looking at a pretty nutty first run from him, especially with some of those early mistakes. None that were really super costly, but just little time losses kind of scattered throughout his run today.
Wait, yeah, that's actually really good. This moon in general has to be crazy now that I think of it, because I was telling you guys earlier how he got like a... Wait, did he get a 16 or 18 failed in Bowser? I can't completely remember, but this is like looking like a really good moon. I was saying how the best pace he could have been on was like a high 3x, but this is looking a little bit better, especially if he's able to close out these pillars nicely. This must have been a pretty good moon.
Yeah, and he is able to get the force shots on that first pillar really nice and clean.
This is a shot there.
Unfortunate. Yeah, oh, those stupid meteors. Wow.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
Really
but I mean,
ruining.
well, what can you say? I think this should still be a high 3x. So this moon overall could have still been like a 515, 516. I don't know exactly. This capture doesn't take 10 seconds before you're able to shoot out, so this is actually gonna be a slightly missing PB over here. 10030 is his PB, gets a 36 still, and this pillar probably lost him around like 2 or 3 seconds, this pillar room, so great stuff.
Yeah, you can pinpoint any number of just a small handful of mistakes and say without these this would have been a PB, so really solid first run of this matchup from Stravos. So he does now have the advantage. He is looking to clinch this next win to go ahead and punch that last ticket to Pace's playoffs. But SuisaigaW, if he does win out these next two, he will be snatching that ticket right out of Stravos' hands and running all the way to Laurel, Maryland with it. So let's go ahead and watch this pillar room as these guys go ahead and afterwards get set up for this next race that could be our last race of our playoffs in Season 1.
Absolutely true. This is where it might end up. This might be the last one. Stravos with an amazing time though. Once again, I want to highlight that because that's the time that you want to actually be able to go all the way. And when I say all the way, it's actually even winning pace. With times like this, you can compete for the title of the best runner of the year, or the season at least, and technically even in the world. So that's looking really good from Stravos. He's been doing some high speed practice and it's showing off. Even this is without Lake Clip and all of that fancy stuff, but amazing run. SuisaigaW with a still 101, and he had a klepto trigger happening to him. Don't forget that part. So also a very good performance from him. He's gonna try to bounce back and hopefully make a game 3 happen here. And yeah, let's give these guys a little bit of a break. Let's let them set up real quick, and we will be right back whenever they are ready. So don't go anywhere. We should be right back with race number 2.
Yeah, just a couple of minutes real fast as they deal with this exit cutscene. All right. Went ahead and grabbed a quick little sip of water back in the commentators booth, and I have some interesting news to share with chat. No delay of any kind or anything, but Suisaiga is during this break going to, and I quote, have to lock the door of his chickens. So there y'all go. Suisaiga, proud chicken owner. You learn something new every day.
True. Funnily enough, actually, quick story time here in this break. I live in like an apartment complex in like a huge city. It's like one of the major cities in Germany, Cologne. Pretty big city when it comes to like the gaming scene and stuff. And like a huge apartment complex. But funnily enough, they actually, as like a gimmick, they installed like a chicken farm in the courtyards, and you can actually, like, on Sundays, if you want like breakfast eggs, you can actually get like fresh eggs. It's pretty fun. I've never done it, but it's actually a thing.
That is
Maybe
so awesome.
that's like the new trend, I guess.
Wow. That's really wild. I've never heard of anything like that. That's amazing.
Pretty creative people over here building that stuff, but not sure how Sui's living situations. Maybe he's living in like another apartment complex of the same of the same company, but I doubt it, because we are not. It's not our job to take care of those guys. So he's probably gonna be right back. So let's just unwind this a little bit. This also gives obviously Stravos and Sui both a little bit of a break, just kind of unwind it a little bit, which is important. This might be the last race of the series.
Yep. And what do you think that Suisaiga is going to be trying to pull out in this next race to maximize his chances of pushing this into a race 3?
I mean, it really depends. Now, if he was able to avoid that klepto trigger, which must have lost him, I mean, he probably lost a minute in lost, I'd say. This is leaning out a little bit. But not only did he have that trigger happening to him, he also didn't really know how to back it up. He had some issues afterwards. You remember he like missed that trapezial hit on that box, so lost in general. Probably lost him around a minute, maybe a little bit less, but around a minute. And if we just subtract that minute, which, I mean, it doesn't really make sense, but let's just do it for the sake of it, this would have been a 14-second difference. And a 14-second difference is nothing. Especially, you cannot expect to get a 1:36 every race. So all he needs to do really is actually play as well as he did right there, avoid that mistake and lost, and we are looking at a very close race again.
Absolutely. And I mean, certainly got to be on Stravos's mind as well, that any huge mistake on his end would have definitely made this race a much tighter one. So do you think that pressure is going to maybe make Stravos play a bit more conservatively at times, or even like just that pressure alone is going to end up causing some nerves that could cause issues in the later kingdoms?
Absolutely. And we've seen, to be fair, we've seen big mistakes such as the one. Actually, these big mistakes have been the storyline of this matchup. Both of them have been playing pretty well overall. And whatever happened to someone, it was a huge mistake that decided the series. We've seen Stravos actually have this klepto mistake happen in the second race of the last best of 3. We've seen Sui have a huge death at Moon, actually having a weird camera at Moonskip and then falling all the way to his death and then having to start off back at the Odyssey in the first series. So these big mistakes have actually been what it's come down to, not the small flaws, not the outplaying. Like if they both can avoid those big mistakes, we are looking at extremely similar performance.
Yeah, certainly a lot just coming down to what ends up happening to these racers mentally in the second race, and what sort of general strategies they decide to employ here, I feel like.
And I'm actually personally looking at this chest slip again, something that, like, my eyes have been open to this one a little bit more. It's such a big thing. I mean, it's not, the thing is, it's not such a big thing in terms of time difference. Like if one runner gets it and the other one misses it, we might see as much as a 4-second difference. But that's still a good chunk, and this trick is still so inconsistent. It's interesting to see.
Yeah, and some people in chat, mentioning Stravos starting a bit early. Part of the reason for this is just that first load is going to take longer, so restarting directly from this This Cap Kingdom is going to save a little bit of time. I think if you just restarted the file from the Mushroom Kingdom, it would still be as fast as restarting from Cap, but a nice little way to go ahead and re-practice this first little bit of movement in the game, keep yourself warmed up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And while we're kind of waiting on Suisaiga to come back, certainly off topic, but I wonder if something like this would be beneficial in this run at all. Someone brought up the idea, this was in the context of Majora's Mask speedruns, which have just very, very long cutscenes. They brought up the idea of actually having two identical setups, so two consoles, two of the same television, and during those long cutscenes, practice upcoming sections on the other console. I wonder if something like that could actually potentially benefit Odyssey runners, since you do have, you are skipping the cutscenes pretty often, but you would have the opportunity to, maybe practice just a couple of seconds worth of movement here and there.
Yeah, I'm thinking where that would be useful, especially at this point in time, because the cutscenes that we can not skip right now, I mean, I guess Chess Clip would actually be one of them, because you have to sit in that Madame Rudel cutscene for quite a little bit. You can't do anything against that. That would definitely be an instance where that could be useful, just getting your hands ready for that trick. And I'd imagine though getting it on your practice console and then missing it anyways. I mean,
No,
it's
it would feel like a slap in the face, yeah.
Still interesting to think about. The other cutscenes, I mean, we tried to basically skip all of the long cutscenes that we can. There's no more in Lake, technically. There's no more in Wooded. And even if they were, they would be at the end of the kingdom. So the boss fight's usually at the end, so all you need to do afterwards is like hit the globe. But certainly an interesting thought. Looks like SuisaigaW has come back. That A input was made. Now in Mushroom, gonna be resetting his game file, and then we should be on the way. Stravos is already in Cascade, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
He's actually
very, very cheeky head start in this race. Not quite sure if that's legal in the league, but Strav not seeming to care, just playing along as if nothing is wrong. And Seba with the very, very high IQ plays, the Super Galaxy Brain plays here. Routing wireless inputs, forehead. And the chickens are safe, for anyone wondering in chat, for the thrilling resolution to this story. The chickens are safe. They're locked away. Going to be sleeping very nice and tight tonight.
Great stuff there from Sui. Not only saving the world, but also his chickens, dude. What a great man. He's about to do it again. And Stravos probably looking to do the same.
The fox does not wait. He's not wrong on that point.
All right, great stuff. So Sui back on that starting screen. Stravos is trapped in that cutscene. Let's see if he's actually... he just told us he's going to be ready after this cutscene. I wonder if he's going to try to throw in a cheeky chess clip real quick, or if he's just going to go straight ahead and restart his game.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And it is a restart. Okay. Okay. Very, very commendable there. Not taking the extra little opportunity for that chess clip practice. So both of them about to go ahead and restart. Strav just clearing away that newly completed file. He doesn't need it. He doesn't want it.
For sure. All right, and we're getting our countdown here internally, so we should be on our way to start race number 2. And as you brought up earlier, potentially the last one. Can Sui make his comeback? Can he win another one and make this come down to a ultimate race game 3 decider? We see perfectly synced up starts here. Beautiful. Looks like Stravos maybe a little bit of a frame like earlier, but these guys are on the same page.
Yeah, let's get some syncs in chat. Not even having to do anything in the back room, just with that instant sync. Never mind that play button. That definitely was not from the back room.
Wow, production coming in clutch there and immediately perfectly syncing that up. Great stuff here.
Just a quick double tap of the spacebar and the frames just pop right together. Just beautiful. Yeah.
Oh. All right. Oh, great voiceover right there. Cappy, interesting character. Say the least.
Yeah. Certainly, and especially that language that he speaks, whatever it ends up being.
Yeah. Papa de BD, as Tisha likes to say. Great stuff here from the Bonnetons, I think, is what they're. Woo, that was some fancy sync right there, exactly the same movement.
Wow, and very, very swaggy movement too to go ahead and hit that switch. Yes, absolutely correct, chat. They are both currently on sub-hour pace. Get
No,
your
actually,
out.
look at this. This is going to be interesting. Suisaiga is going to go for a spin pound, and Stravos is going to go for a normal roll. This is something that actually happens every time, but it does not matter. They get the frog at the exact same time. It's always really cool to see.
So yeah, there's your definitive proof if you've been wondering. Spin pounds, unless they're done perfectly optimally.
Exactly. Like, it wasn't a great one from Sui, but you need to get like a crazy one to actually save them, especially in that room. But still, perfect sync going into left side.
Yeah, remember, Sweet failing that first try, so let's see if he's able to get it this time. And perfect sync.
That's awesome.
Stravos just frames ahead going into topper.
For sure. Stravos cut the line there a little bit better. Both of them getting the spin for hit on top. And overall, Stravos making up some time in the fight, making up some time on that lines, but won't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Probably
yeah, just about a half second behind or so. That's nothing at all.
Nothing at all going into Cascade, which I'm looking at you, Chessclip. What are you going to do to this race? And actually, funnily enough, the Madden Brutal fight, I'm not sure, I just joined as it happened and invited the first time, has actually been a big deal in this matchup. I think we had some issues there in this first race, and 3 out of 4 times Stravos had like a weird mistake happen there, so hopefully able to avoid that right now.
Yeah, I'm certainly hoping so as well, as they both start out Cascade with, again, very, very close times. You always hate to see them fall further and further apart in a kingdom like this. You really want to see this sync maintained until, hopefully, somewhere in Lake or Wooded at the very, very least.
Moon, dude. Moon is the ultimate.
Oh, I mean, yeah, of course, but that's like winning the lottery, which you hope for, but... Are we sure the restreamer hasn't put the same game on both screens? I mean, neither I nor LimCube are the ones restreaming, so, you know, Milo's sweating in the back. Can we get some GSA S's?
Okay, we do see at the coins right there, it's in fact not the same gameplay. Strauss was able to get a little bit more coins from that, but looking extremely similar right there. Let's see coin counts. 32 to 24 is actually quite a big difference there. Strauss on both coin grabs being a little bit more efficient. Now, this guy used to be the nipple percent world record holder. Let's not forget that, which is a category that's mainly, I mean, completely based around getting the boxer shots as fast as possible. So this guy's coin movement is optimized.
Oh, yeah, very, very heavily so. Yeah, about 2 seconds of difference. Wow. Still very, very close.
And funnily enough, that's pretty much exactly the time that a successful chess loop can easily save you over missing it. So I'm excited.
And certainly same here. Let's see what they can pull out with this spicy movement coming up here.
Both of them starting off with a spin point. This time you don't want to roll there because you are not facing the right direction. This is where the spin point is certainly the better option. Now Stravos actually opened the chest a little bit early last time. Is going to open it very early again. And actually, that almost looked like he intentionally didn't go for it. Suis and the Greats might just take the lead off of that.
Yup, and it's, the sync is back. The sync is back, folks. Wow.
Oh my god, it's actually frame perfect. It's over. It's over. It actually frame perfect 6 in exactly 2 seconds with that chess clip, and yeah, let's see that fade out because I can't really see the exact difference in terms of frames, so we might be really, really tight.
I think SuisaigaW is just frames ahead. Just frames ahead.
That was almost like a synced up banner there scrolling through the entire screen, and that's what we are looking at. Less than half a second, probably 0.2 if even. And fast action guide skip is going to be really exciting and interesting to watch right here. Stravos actually with faster meshing there already. He's already taken the lead just off of that mesh.
Yeah, let's see which, hopefully both of these guys can get fast action. For those not aware, fast action guide is if you hit B, like right whenever this text comes up with that yellow line where Cappy's trying to bring up the action guide, you can, so if you hit B immediately, you totally skip the action guide coming up. But if you hit it really, really precisely, like right at the start of that window, I'm not sure how many frames you have to do it, but like I guess it just prevents the guide from even starting to load in the first place, and it'll actually save a couple of seconds. Cappy won't freeze there and like wait for the action guide to come up. He'll just immediately move on to his next piece of text.
Yeah, and even though Stravos didn't get the really fast version of it, he still got, and we talked about this earlier, his fabled medium guide, fast action guide skip. Definitely saving a little bit of time there over Sui. And yeah, this lead might have extended to just about a second already.
Nice spin pounds from both of them, though, as they're going to be popping on out of the bumper room here. I'm going to be really sad when these two rooms get routed out. That double loading zone basically means it's going to happen someday. I don't know what for, but...
True. The thing is, that's also right now actually the slowest moon in Seaside. That basically the equal room, you know, where you go into the pipe and do the same things. That room in Seaside even being slow, we don't have an option to skip that one yet, but it's on the chopping board at least.
Yeah, and I still remember when a Seaside clip was found. That was, I think, the room that a lot of people gravitated towards, like, oh, this is going to be the one that gets cut. And then when they actually looked at the timing between that and cutting the notes, then it was like, oh, well, all that work we put into Rocket Flower refresh, rip.
Yeah. Sad, very sad. We'll have to say that on like a on a theoretical level, that Note's moon is close to that other ground pound moon, because you can go for this fabled 2-frame refresh. Sui actually, apparently with a little bit better movement there throughout Dram, and maybe even better speed with the bullet bill, being able to touch that moon first. As you see right there, he passed the cactus and the cacti a little bit earlier.
Yeah, just a little bit ahead now. Still basically synchronized. Wow. Let's see if we get... The moon grabs are synced.
Faster ground pound from Stravos, and moons are added to the counter at the exact same frame almost now. Going to swing slip, this would be interesting to see if we can keep our sync through this section, because it's such a huge tray. And first try from Sui. Stravos missing it actually twice right now. The third
getting that
try will be
right. Nice.
But Sand is far from over.
Win counts, yeah. SuisaigaW looking really, really hot with a 132. Wow. Stravos with exactly 100. Better than that first race, I believe.
Yeah, he had like less than 100, but 100 is fine. Should be, unless he takes like a death and loss. That's probably when it would get close. But let's see. Sui actually missing that bullet bill movement the first time, but avoiding it this time. Gets that nice and clean.
Yeah, and Stravos with I don't know why I never thought about angling the camera that way. That makes that trick so much easier. I'll certainly have to practice that whenever I come back to this game.
GSA skip acquired from Sui, which is a trick that we have barely seen missed at all, but if it happens, it's a huge deal.
Oh yeah, I think it's like the single biggest time loss in Sand.
Sand? Yeah, probably.
And it just...
You can actually, you can technically die at swings clip, which we haven't seen. But if you clip wrong, you can fall, and then you actually spawn at the rumble room. So that's probably even worse. But something we haven't really seen.
Yeah, both of them just huge errors that you really effectively have to be trying to mess them up. You'd have to be just... Something would have to go really wrong with your GSA skip. It's pretty lenient overall, especially like if you're not doing the spin throw setups that these guys are using. If you just do like the very basic, I forget exactly what the inputs are, but it's very free overall. I was able to get it pretty consistently within like 15-20 minutes of trying it out.
Stravos falling off right there. And you are right, but the funny thing is, if you want to take GSA skip to even a next level, it gets hard again, because now that people are doing this late crate route, you want to be as fast as possible during that bird cycle, and it's technically best to actually uncapture the bullet bill before it crashes into the wall, and then basically move yourself towards that wall. That makes it a lot tighter, but it is a little bit faster. And if you want to get that hard bird cycle during the late crate route, that's something people have actually actively been doing. But no late crate routes today, so GSA skip was lenient. SuisaigaW actually going to be getting a 1004. It might be a 1005 actually. Yep, 1005 exit, which is still stunning. Stravos is going to be getting it looks like a 1012. So Sui actually with a, okay, it's a 13, whatever.
Sui about an 8-second difference. Yeah, 12, 13, same number. It's not like we're conducting complex mathematics here.
Exactly.
We're just comparing a lead that will hopefully be 0 seconds again at some point, because those synchronized races everyone knows are the best ones.
Out of all kingdoms, Lake is probably the least likely to make that happen, though, unless Sui has some major issues during Lake clip. But this is once again where Sui is going to be opting for the faster and more efficient strategy again, being that Lake clip.
Yeah, and it's really the clip itself is kind of finicky, but it's especially that out of bounds movement, having to make that very, very precise. You can't just do a ground pound straight up jump. You have to move the stick very, very precisely so that you don't go too far out and end up clipping back in bounds, but you're also able to avoid that ceiling right above the area that you clip through.
Wow.
It's a very, very tight window. That just little bit of movement away from the corner, which, by the way, nice first try. Wow.
He's fantastic at this clip. The worst I've seen him in this series was second try. He is really great at Lake clip.
Yeah, so he's going to be making up significant time here. He's going to be pulling pretty significantly far ahead of Stravos. If he's able to execute the rest of the kingdom well, certainly we could see this extend into about the 15-second lead range. Assuming Stravos does everything perfectly as well.
Sui getting that down throw, changing to the Joy-Cons real quick to make that happen. Probably now switching back to the Pro controller, which is, as far as I know, the controller of his choice. And I mean, you brought it up earlier. Obviously, Sui is already in a 7-second lead or 8-second lead after Sand. But every time you get into this section, it seems like Lake clip isn't even that great. Like, I mean, Stravos is currently getting his last moon. It's always those cutscenes revealing the truth at the end.
You're going to be collecting this real fast, and then while Stravos has to watch Rengo go down, Sui is going to go ahead and pop in that secret room, say hi, and then bye, and he's going to be moving on to Wooded.
And keeping those 8 seconds in mind, we are actually going to be able to see an accurate representation because both of them had really nice performance throughout Lake, pretty much mistakeless for their respective versions. So the value that we get right here is probably going to be a pretty accurate time save what an average Lake clip can save you here. So, maybe not because we just lost a second missing the globe, but
wow. The spin throws are more efficient for like capturing general things, but yeah, things like that can also happen and really ruin that time save.
The reality is at that point there on that globe, it's probably not really a time save. It just looks a little cooler, but I mean, who can blame him? So he's going to be getting actually sub 13 Lake exit here. Very nice, 12:59 for him. Let's see, Stravos here, he's going to be getting a 13:09. So that's a that's around like a 3 or 2 seconds time save here in Lake for Sui, which is mainly due to him missing the globe at the end. That it's only 2 or 3, let's say 3. But obviously also getting that 1.5 seconds later in Metro.
Yeah, and Stravos just with still a nicely executed Lake, but cannot compare to that Lake clip route ultimately when it's performed at that high of a level, as Suisaiga just showed us.
Let's keep in mind here, Suisaiga's PB is also a 1:00:17. And a sub 13 Lake exit is what you want to see for PB attempts at that level. That's great stuff.
All right, and we're moving into this quick little cheeky first-person cam to go ahead and get the shopkeeper to talk to you a little bit earlier. Only 2 coins away from that snow moon. As long as you don't see any deaths, isn't going to have to worry really at all about that route. And he is going to be going for tree again. Very fast, fluid movement. Oh, but bonking on that wall there, ruining his entire time save. He's going to still commit to it, though. Already close enough. You know, I guess it makes sense over going ahead and cutting your losses. But unfortunate, going to eat into his lead pretty significantly.
I mean, many people actually do this route just because they like that version of Flower Road Skip more. But let's focus on Nut Clip right here. Stravos is in a nice spot, is going to be able to get it because he actually had a miss on this Nut Clip in one of his races. Sui has been really consistent at this. Taking his time there on out of bounds, that's fair. Ooh, I'm not sure about that one. Okay, he gets it. But the reason I wasn't sure right there because for like a frame, you could see Mario actually being in this tilted position and then his position was changed, which is odd, but it can still work, and he gets it.
Yeah, and Suisaiga also making it work first try. Very nice and clean out-of-bounds movement. That's what you always love to see here. And Suisaiga also opting, you know, I see a lot of people playing it pretty safe, and before you even start venturing up the inside of the rock wall, you like align Mario to be perpendicular with that like edge of the rock wall that you're trying to backflip on top of. But Suisaiga actually doing the backflip while facing parallel to that edge. And so more precise. You definitely. I'm not. I can't remember the exact direction that he did it, but certainly has a lot more room for error, but making it work very, very nice and clean. As Strav going to go ahead and bop the Piranha in preparation for grabbing his Story Moon, which will give Suisaiga the opportunity to go ahead and make up some time. Interesting cap throw there. It looked like he was just throwing Cappy to try to hit that checkpoint, not realizing Mario was already going to be within that movement anyway.
Right, now we're actually going to see that difference unfolding again. Looked like, oh my god, Suisaiga saving his shoulder with that ledge grab. Very lucky, because it's really odd to recover from there, but this is the lead that he still has due to his routing. He didn't get the time save necessarily, as you brought up, because of that bonk, but he is obviously still ahead, probably breaking even. Like, this route saves around 2 to 3 seconds, optimally in optimal worlds, and a bonk loses about that much, so probably just breaking even.
Yeah, but that sounds about right to me as well. Sui is going to go ahead and enter into the Flower Tower in a much, much better position to start out this race than that last one. So it's certainly going to be the thing to watch out for is whether he's able to hold on to this lead, and if so, by how much. Especially moving into the mid-section of the game, as we are going to be approaching Lost here in just a few minutes. So about a full moon ahead at the moment.
This last portion, obviously, still a big portion here of Wooded. It's probably around a minute of time that you spend getting those last 3 moons, which, I mean, that sounds a lot, but I guess a lot of that is obviously the warp, 10 seconds for that, and it's so really 50 seconds for these 3 moons. Stravos is actually going to get blocked by that uproot, smartly doing a roll cancel there to avoid taking damage.
Yes, so he's going to be going for fast pipes here. Definitely worth noting he had a lot cleaner movement going for that nut around the corner than he did in that first race. Let's see, fast pipes is going to be free for him, as with most of the guys at this level. And yeah, most of the difficulty with the tree route is you just have to use different strats. Like, for instance, when you're going around the Piranha, and especially for Flower Road skip, the actual skip is different. And as Limcube said, the getting optimal movement up the tree can be tricky.
Yeah, it still feels like we haven't fully seen how it works. Now, Stravos actually had one of the biggest mistakes happen there at the same time. Kind of missed that pipeway damage, meaning he wasn't able to get that first cycle, having to damage boost through and getting a refill. So Sui with 1823 Wooded exit. Great stuff. Still, even after some mistakes here, can definitely get a good run off of that. It's worth to say that the best exit we've ever seen here is an 18 flat, which is absolutely insane if you think about it. 18, that's 23 seconds better than what we've seen from Suisaiga, who made minimal mistakes. It's just, if you take that game to the next level and get all of the strats, that's what you actually can get. We are going to be seeing a 17 at some point.
Oh yeah, no doubt. That's going to be a really insane day. And I certainly hope that run is able to make it to the end, whatever run gets that fast of a start.
Would be beautiful, because that quote-unquote god run is still possible, and it will actually surely happen soon. Like, if you just think about the fact that Curbs in his run got a Metro exit, which was around, I don't know the exact difference against like world record, but it should have been more than 10 seconds ahead of record at the time. 29-25 at the end of Metro, which is, we used to think that sub 30 was never going to happen before Nutclip was a thing, but like that was like just northable, but now it's certain reality on good runs.
Yeah, and Metro feeling like a kind of natural halfway point for the run. Certainly that dipping below sub half was a huge achievement as well.
Stravos finally, not finally actually, but interestingly enough, actually missing that manipulation again. Maybe something that he needs to clean up, maybe something that he doesn't opt to go for. I know the second part of the manipulation is especially strange. Misses out on that, and looking at his coin count right now, it's only at 64. So probably we might actually see him go to Seaside again, splitting up that race a little bit further after Metro, so it's going to be interesting. But now into Lost, which is where SuisaigaW found his demise last run. So let's hope he can avoid this this time.
And EBM with, the true facts in the chat asking, why doesn't Peach just jump off of the ship into the pretty comfortable looking clouds and such? You know, I certainly think best case scenario, she is experiencing some form of Stockholm syndrome. You know, definitely sympathy.
No
No, Suisaiga
way.
again, just taking the death. That's what you have to do at that point. Oh man. Going ahead and taking the rage capture as well. Very honestly, he needs to be very thankful that he ended up far enough away from that platform to be able to avoid that klepto trigger.
Actually,
So,
that platform is safe, funnily enough, but he would have been in such an odd spot. Like, it would have been faster for him to land on that platform and then perform a weird backup, but the risk of triggering Klepto again was probably too high. And looking at this now, this is not an unsurmountable lead. He's less behind Stravos than Stravos was behind him going into this. So it's certainly not over. It's just a huge change of pace here.
yeah, and I mean, remember how he was able to chip away pretty significantly at Stravos's lead throughout that ending of the last race, and this is certainly much close than
already here.
Yeah, Stravos not able to quite get into the alcove for the moon there. And that could certainly be a weird one because the moon hitbox extends just a little bit out from that alcove. And so like what he was trying to do there was edge as close as you can without having to go into the alcove. But if you do that just a little bit early, you get that stupid wall slide like that. Yeah, certainly not the worst death to make in the game, but a very costly one, as we can see here. Suisaiga is formerly with a double-digit second lead, and now having to catch up from this at least one moon deficit. And falling off of the tree. Okay, he is able to survive and back this up pretty nicely. Okay.
This kingdom is absolutely ridiculous when this is why we still say lost is such a major part of the run. He got extremely lucky there, to be fair. He could have fallen off into the poison again, having to reset up Klepto, and he is certainly extremely happy to be done with this, still in less than a 20-second window of Stravos, which is something that he can easily still surmount, but man, let's get the hell out of here.
Exactly. And chat, here's your friendly reminder. Inhale. Exhale.
This race has been something else, dude. That sync at the start, now a definitely insane loss, and now going into Night Metro next.
Yeah, certainly hoping this Night Metro ends up going well. Suisaiga definitely going to be at least a little bit shaken, hopefully not completely stirred just yet. Yeah, about a 13-second deficit on Suisaiga's side. And yeah, just a really rough loss from him, but ultimately still significantly better than getting that klepto trigger.
Yeah. Even though he made twice mistakes this time. 2 mistakes.
Someone asking in chat, is there anything that determines night versus day? This section that they're dealing with right now, we call Night Metro. And you know, I'm not actually sure. I've never really like looked in the sky. Is it actually nighttime or is it just really stormy?
I think it's definitely nighttime. That's what it looks like. And once again, it's not really... there's nothing that determines it. It's just the way this is scripted, basically. This is the first state of the kingdom. Whenever you arrive there, it's nighttime. You gotta beat the Wiggler, and then it's the next day, basically. That's basically the progression this kingdom is making. And funnily enough, if you actually visit this place through a painting, it is daytime. So this state gets activated whenever the Odyssey actually gets there.
Yeah, I'm certainly still waiting for the day when somehow some method of getting from the paintings to the kingdom proper will be discovered. You know, I'm thinking it's pretty unlikely, but if it does happen, that would be just a huge achievement. Just really drastically change up the routing in this game, I'm sure.
Stravos getting an up throw right there. The up throw did return to him in time to be able to capture the wire, but you usually want to do a spin throw there to capture the wire from afar. And this is probably the most annoying thing that can happen to you with motion control, is just that exact thing where you get an up throw instead of a spin throw, or vice versa, basically. Sometimes you want that up throw, but you get a spin throw instead. Which is actually a huge deal in Fox. That actually has caused deaths.
Yeah, the motion control is so finicky in this game. I certainly like. People have told me that if you try to do them very gently, for whatever reason, they seem to have more success. But it just certainly at some points it doesn't quite feel like things like up throws have the range that they should. It feels like there's like a I don't know, like a 10-degree range for an up throw, whereas there would be like the additional 80 degrees for like a standard side thrower or something ridiculous like that.
Stravos missing quite a few shots here at the start. He got some of them during that fireball phase. Not quite able to get the last shot, but gets it in time, which is what matters. But if he is able to get a little bit of a better pattern right here and reacts to it accordingly, he can already get big times. If it gets first, gets very nice shots here. Oh, snipes that last one. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Wow. That's the best you can hope for, aside from just leaving the cursor in one position and just firing away. So very, very clean cycle for Sui, just making up insane time already over Stravos.
Yeah, let's actually see how much that affects. I think if I recall correctly, you were talking about 13 seconds going into the kingdom. Now, so you might have not had the best night metro movement overall, but 49 fade out here for Stravos, and I think we might be looking. Yeah, this is looking like a 58, so actually 9 seconds already, making up 4 seconds doing Mecha Wiggler.
Yeah, he is pulled back within 10 seconds. This is a very, very close race to potentially either force or stop this game from going into a race 3. Both players going into this with vehemently different goals. And let's see which force of wills ends up overpowering the other.
And coming up first here is going to be, I mean, the first big trick is going to be the scooter. We've seen some misses here. Stravos actually a little bit far away from the cage, but leans in just fine enough to get a nice drive by. He's going to be happy about this one. Sui hopefully being able to match it as he almost passes by the scooter.
Oh, and then ending up getting a quick little hit on the fence, and he drives right by it, not actually getting the drive-by grab. Gonna have to do the suspended corner movement instead. Stravos pulling pretty far ahead with some nice clean movement here as well. Going ahead and talking to that little bench friend. Now, is it just me, or for whatever reason, when I was trying to get into running this game, I would always forget about the bench friend's text box. I guess it was just me thinking to myself, like, okay, I need to wait without putting in any input so Mario sits down. And for whatever reason, once Mario sits down, it doesn't occur to me like, okay, I can start mashing A.
Yeah, and that's actually funny how this works, because that specific moon, it's not about really not moving, it's also about not moving the camera. If you move the camera, Mary will actually not sit down quite yet, which is weird, but that's just how that specific textbooks works, making it a little bit more unintuitive. But I actually want to look at this fade out right here, though. Let's see, this Stravos is going to be getting a 36 on this one. And I just wanted to see how much missing Scoot Clip even loses. It's crazy. You don't really think about it because you just drive around the cage once, but it was a 9-second difference going into this kingdom. And we are already looking at, let's see this. It's going to be a 54. So that's 18 seconds. 8 seconds lost.
Literally doubled the deficit over that one missed trick. Wow. And ultimately, it was just due to not quite being far enough to the right to avoid that first little bit of fence. Because I'm sure if he would have had the momentum, it would have just all been muscle memory, and he would have instantly gotten the clip as usual.
Capitex coming in here, though, for Stravos, so that deficit is already decreasing, since Sui is not going to get this one. He did go for the late clip route earlier.
As Strav with this nice little fall down and back up movement. The routing here is just super cool to me, how you go ahead and work to the top of the skyscraper, hop down real fast, travel way back up, and then jump back down again to go over to the pool on the other side.
This specific wire, though, for me as a router is extremely annoying, because it kind of limits options drastically in what order you could do things, because this specific wire is the only wire leading all the way up to the top, which we obviously want to grab that extremely fast moon, but it just limits things just way more than you'd think when you actually try to make route changes for Metro, which there is a faster route than what runners are doing right now, but it requires to do an insane sub-room that is only fast if you go for the fastest strats there. SuisaigaW are going to be missing the moon on top of the tower here for just a little bit, but this is going to be pretty much the last time we can really get a good feel for this difference here, because I just rechecked Stravos' coin count and looking like a 70-something, yeah, 79, so we are going to be seeing a split up again after this kingdom.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to recover those coins, unfortunately. And Jax Rogers in the chat asking how Cappy Tex loses time. It's not necessarily that it loses time. You do have to see that Cappy tell you how to get a checkpoint at least once somewhere in the run. But in this particular case, because SuisaigaW did the late clip route, he was able to get that text box to occur all the way back in Lake Kingdom. And because of the improvement of the late clip route over the standard route, even though you waste that extra couple of seconds back there there, you end up saving that back in the amount of time late clip saves.
Yeah, it's not that late clip like the text boxes not having the text box saves more time. It's just that late clip saves more time than it seems like because part of that time save happens in Metro. That's basically how it works.
Exactly right. Like we compared, because these two just had near perfect lakes. I think it was like a 6 or so second difference from when they'd entered, but that extra couple of seconds just got applied to Stravos because of that text box here.
It's gonna be the last time we can see these guys head to head because with all the sync happening earlier, we are gonna be splitting up right now. Stravos did, I mean, I hope I didn't actually see him make that input. Yeah, but he did select C-side here, which is the right choice. He was at 79 coins, which is not enough to buy that moon and snow. Collecting some coins for free here during the seaside route. And we are going to see them once again meet in dungeon.
Yeah, but it's certainly nice for this game, even though it has those different routing options. It's very nice that you're still able to meet back up so quickly. Unlike, say, like in 70 Star, if someone ends up going for HMC early as opposed to HMC late, congrats, you're not able to see any sort of synchronization for 20 minutes. But in this case, it's just you deal with these two quick kingdoms, which I think at this level, both of them should take under 5 minutes. So you're not even dealing with 10 seconds of just kind of a weird desync issue.
C-side in less than 5 minutes, definitely extremely easy. Snow, for these guys, surely possible and surely probably will happen. You can even make some mistakes on that level, but once you start out, a sub 5 snow is definitely a good first goal. It's pretty respectable.
Oh yeah, requires just very nice, precise, fast movement. And one thing that I think just doesn't quite get mentioned enough is just how much effort these guys have put into minimizing slack in order to just put these inputs out as quickly as possible. Because as a beginner, you can do a lot of these same tricks. It's just you're not actually pressing the buttons as quickly. You're not executing the jump into a dive as quickly, or throwing happy as quickly from that jump, or whatever the specific movement has to be. And the more you try reducing those frames in between those inputs, it becomes very, very difficult very quickly. And so for these guys to be able to execute these movements as precisely and as quickly as they do, that's a huge thing that saves a lot of time over the course of the run.
It's not about timing, it's a lot about camera control as well. But Sui trying to go for that snow moon clip there, which is really a high level strat, only saves about a second in this category, but it's kind of free, and going for it doesn't lose much time. It's not going to get it this time. Actually misjudging his position right there, not going to spin pound that moon on his first try. At the same time, Stravos is going to be going into the out of bounds section here with the cheat sheet, manipulating the boundary there, hopefully not tipping back in.
And he's very, very clean right there. Very nice and far away. You have to be pretty close, actually. But it's weird because it's like the moon does try to pull you a little bit closer.
Yeah. It's also because of the shake. Yeah, like your position gets kind of like, your momentum gets kind of messed with.
But fortunately, no inbounds popping this time around. Not going to have to see these guys struggle to answer the Sphinx question. Nice quick pipe suck from SuisaigaW. That's another little optimization that, like, at a beginner level, all you have to do is dive into that pipe, and like in this pipe, you just delay a long jump a little bit. But at these guys' level, they're actually trying to execute dives and buffer a spin pound so that the pipe sucks them in that fraction of a second faster. Just those little time saves all over the run. When you implement them and just drill them, that's what really enables you to get these 100, 101s pretty reliably.
Absolutely, and it's interesting. You can go for that quote-unquote pipe suck in different ways. As long as you can basically, we will see it here for SuisaigaW. It's actually gonna long jump into the pipe, and the reason that works is because that first frame you touch the pipe, that long jump is gonna transition into a roll, and then that roll makes you basically slurp. The pipe slurps you up, and it looks pretty cool. Let's see if he gets it, because it's one of the most satisfying jumps here in snow. Yeah, very nice. It's gonna try that out of a roll, even super optimal. And now Snowdrop, though, that's going to be a big part, because if Stravos was to miss this once, he just had a great C-set, but if he was to miss this once and Sui gets it, that would pretty much make them break even.
We'll just have to see how this ends up going. SuisaigaW hopefully going to be able to pull this off pretty nice and clean. Did get that very easy first try last time. Gonna go ahead and do the double lineup, just making absolute certain of his position. Nice. And it's free. Nice.
Yeah, I can respect that double lineup. Sometimes you question your lineup, and this is the one time where you really want to question your decisions. If you just are a little bit off right there, everything can be a little bit different, and then you bonk, and then 20 seconds are gone, and you do not want to see that happen. So can definitely respect that choice. Stravos is also going to be going for that snow clip here on your left screen, and he, I think, is going to be able to make it through 2 out of 2 in this matchup so far, in this series. Both of them, once again, super efficient. Sui missing it this run, but quite awesome to cut that move around.
Yeah, and we do have someone in chat asking, what is a dram exactly? Would you like to explain why all the strats in this game are named dram strats?
So funnily enough, the very well-known runner Dram55, also very well-known for example, in Super Mario World, actually came up with this strat in Sand that we still use to this day. We kind of changed it up a little bit, but it's basically just throwing up Cappy in a specific spot to be able to get a task done, and once you are done, you can basically cut the detour of that task by homing in Cappy to the capture, going for that extremely quick homing animation towards that capture, basically cutting back the detouring. Now, that's used quite a few times in runs on different captures, such as in Metro and Sand, but this one in Snow has absolutely nothing to do with that at all. It's just that the very known runner of this game, Shaden, who used to be the GOAT, literally untouchable at the very first month of the game, he sadly quit. Everybody misses him. He was amazing, just pushed the game like no one else. And his roommate, I think, Ekitrix, who also used to have the world record for Breath of the Wild, also very well-known speedrun community personality, actually lapped out that specific segment set up for this jump, which used to be known as this impossible jump that we would probably never do. And they just knew that Dram55 hates it when people call strats after him, and they just thought, okay, we're going to call it Snow Dram just to trigger our friend Dram. Yep. And that's how that meme started, basically.
And it became a pretty decent community meme. Now there's a pretty decent handful of strats all labeled something Dram, and it's all because he really does not like people naming strats after him, especially when they have no relevance to him whatsoever.
Exactly. Well, it's fun. There's many people that dislike this and just call it snow painting jump, which works just fine. It's personal choice. It's very well known as the Snow Dram, though, which is what Stravos has to be doing right now. And this is looking like an interesting difference right here. Sui now going into these last moons of Seaside. Obviously, these are quick moons, but Stravos only with this last moon to go now. If he was to miss this, we could see them break even again. He just had another mistake. Extremely quick setup. He does have the confidence to go for this, and he will make it work. That's very crucial.
Yep, as Strav is going to be holding on to that pretty nice lead moving into launch in here. So this is very, very crucial. He's got 4 kingdoms separating himself from that pace ticket. He's got to be feeling the pressure right now. He knows that SuisaigaW is fully capable of exploiting any sort of lead that he manages to give away through any little mistake. So he's got to be feeling that pressure mount up.
And now that Sui just warped, that is actually a pretty good signal for us to think that this lead might have extended to something close as 30 seconds, because a warp takes around 10, and then this globe cutscene takes around 20, so we are looking at a 30-second lead now for Stravos, which is healthy, but Luncheon and especially Turnip Clip have diminished leads like that in basically instants.
Yeah. And so Stravos is going to be skipping this first little cutscene at 38:47. We'll see when SuisaigaW is able to enter and do the same. I would certainly expect it to be like somewhere around a 39, 2x, I would think.
Yeah, looks around that, like around 30 seconds. Now that Stravos is rolling across that lava here to make his way to the boss fight, we can pay attention here on SuisaigaW's screen, who's about to arrive here.
Odyssey gonna go ahead and land Mario. 1, 2, 3, and skipping cutscene at 39:17.
Exactly 30 seconds then.
You know, I was about to say 17, but I was like, no, there's no way it's gonna be exactly 30. There's no way. And wow, okay. SuisaigaW has his goal set up, just lose less than 30 seconds, or rather gain 30 seconds on Stravos before the end of Moon. Certainly very, very doable, especially if Stravos ends up having some sort of shaky gameplay here later on.
Yeah, and we've seen some nasty motion control mistakes for Stravos. He actually mentioned last time, which I found funny, but who knows, dude? Maybe he's onto something. Obviously, we do use the cheap prevention method of changing dates here, and I think Stravos is the only person that ever has complained about this. Not the actual prevention, but he said that seemingly it seems to actually kind of mess with his motion controls, and he wants to like recalibrate them, and that's usually not a big deal, and he actually did it before this race, so he can't even use that as an excuse. But he did have some motion control issues in Metro, and motion control issues are your biggest enemy in the Fox room, so definitely going to be looking out for that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly have to take the opportunity to complain at least a little bit to Nintendo forcing those motion controls entirely, because a missed motion control is tantamount to just straight up hitting the wrong button, except you don't have as fine of control over what buttons you're hitting with the motion controls. It's ultimately for speedruns, it's certainly, I think, a lot more of a hindrance than a benefit. It is kind of nice that you don't have to worry about, like, you know, A and B and X and Y all doing completely separate things, like, say, X and Y having two different types of cap throws associated with them. But at the same time, when you have these misdirected motion controls, it's certainly just, it's really, really frustrating.
And this is the playoffs match once again. It's for new people joining, so points are not a thing at this point anymore. This is playoffs. It's just about who wins and who doesn't. In the leagues, we had a point system that rewarded points depending on how much you win by. But that is not accurate for this one. We just want to see who wins the series this year. And I'm not even sure if there's like a plural for series. It's probably just series, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. For like these series.
Yeah.
When written out, the punctuation would designate.
Exactly. Right, but Fork's happening here already on the left screen, and Stravos is able to get all of his motion control inputs right. That's what matters here.
Yeah, very, very clean movement here. That dive, these guys make it look so easy, that dive into that first moon on the end, but it is pretty difficult to actually both flick yourself in the right angle to position yourself and also just time that dive at the very end.
This is the crucial section. I mean, it's two crucial sections at the same time happening. Fox for SuisaigaW, which we kind of... It's not like this very scary section. It's not fair to call it, because we are really good at this point in time, and especially these top runners are. But if mistakes happen here, they are huge. But this turnip clip, while figured out completely, still is very finicky. Stravos has a decent position right there. I'm not sure how much space he has. I think this could work. Looks like a really good spot, and is going to make that clip very nice.
Yeah, really nice, and you can see his apprehension, him playing it safe without doing those pan throws. If you throw a pan, like if you feel very, very confident in getting the clip, you can throw a pan as soon as you capture the pan bro, and it'll put you into the moon just a little bit faster, but you risk ending up destroying the turnip. And if you don't actually get the clip, then you're very, very, well, you're accepting a lot of time loss, to say the least.
But it looks like Sui is going to be able to match that. The turnip is a little bit further away, but it's still enough to push the pan bro in very fast. Not throwing from as far away, but still great.
That broken pan means that he did actually go for that additional little optimization. How can you destroy the turnip? I don't believe the pans are actually limited to the walls, at least like not on the inside. And so if you throw a pan at the turnip, it destroys the turnip.
Yep, it does. It does. And that's quite unfortunate. Now, actually, we had the very weird instance happening last time where Stravos didn't destroy the turnip, but the turnip destroyed the pan bro. Because Stravos actually unintentionally threw the turnip at the pan bro, trying to reset it up, and it caused like a huge time loss. But both of them avoiding it thus far. Obviously, this is not indefinitely the last race. If Sui can come back from this discrepancy, he can. We still have Bowser's, we still have Moon. We might see one more. But so far, Stravos is still dealing with this lead. We can check at the end of luncheon here if this kingdom has affected them in general. And after this, it certainly has. Sui dropping down.
Wow, unfortunate from Sui. He really, really needed a really solid exit to this luncheon. And just hemorrhaging even more time away. Able to back that up very nice and quickly, though.
Yeah, I think he wasn't completely sure what to do as a backup first. He then noticed that there's like a fork sitting down there, which is used in other categories. Quite a neat thing to fling yourself back up. But yeah, certainly losing some more time here at the ending of luncheon.
Yeah, certainly SuisaigaW hoping for Stravos to pull out a little bit of that equanimity energy and, you know, take just a little bit too risky of an approach to the reptile here coming up in Ruined Kingdom.
Absolutely. Now, Ruined is not necessarily too known. It's not Lost, which Lost is really known, once again, as we saw in this race, to destroy leads. Ruined, not so much. It can destroy leads, don't get me wrong. If you die in this fight, your lead is gone. At this level, it's just gone. Like, if you die and your opponent doesn't, you are behind. That's pretty much a certain thing to say.
If that's not the case, then your opponent had a pretty devastating run for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it certainly just, even with the risky strategies you go for, you have to royally mess things up and play it very, very unsafe in order to end up incurring a death here. Since, as you can see, like, you have all this dead time to go ahead and unveil the hearts from the stage, so you'd have to end up letting yourself get down to 2 energy and then, like, get on top of the dragon really early and somehow take damage twice from the lightning. You'd have to end up at 1 heart and for some reason try to get on top of the dragon just as the lightning is dissipating. It's a very restricted set of very specific circumstances that can cause deaths here, but again, not impossible.
Funnily enough, the things that actually can kill you here is not even the dragon. I mean, he can, but if you see it definitely, it's not because of the dragon, it's actually because of the little fuzzies that like spawn on top of the dragon's head, because if you do get onto his head, take damage twice, these little fuzzies can actually do the last job. And I don't even know where they spawn there, but that's probably the most likely thing to die here. But when I say likely, I'm talking about like once in...
You're talking about the odds
here.
of winning with 2 lottery tickets versus 1.
Al-
They are
almost,
better,
though.
it's just...
Exactly. Alright, but now for the ending portion of this is potentially, and it's kind of at the moment, it's looking like it might be our last race of the SMO playoffs. Let's just briefly mention pace again, which these guys are trying to qualify for. We've talked about it a lot in this playoff series, so I'm not gonna go for the big ads, but if you are interested in that big event taking place at the end of this month that we are hosting, type an ! pace to learn all about it. These guys will go head-to-head live right there.
Yeah, a super exciting event. Just to recap all the major points, we've got 3 leagues with our semi and then grand finals. The semifinals will be a group stage, so all 4 of the players that made it into each of our speed games, which, as a friendly little reminder, that is Super Mario 64 in a 70-star league, Celeste any %, and of course this game Odyssey any %. They will be going head-to-head against all of each other in that group stage, and then based on the results of that group stage, we will have the grand finals to decide who's going to go home with the majority of that prize pool, and of course, the fame and glory of winning that first season GSA League. And in addition to those races, a lot of the stream time is also going to be showcase runs, all sorts of really, really cool speed games being shown off in really awesome ways. We're going to have a Pokemon Let's Go Eevee run that should be really, really exciting. I've never actually watched a Let's Go run, so that's going to be super cool to see live. Of course, the only Zelda Freak Glitcha ZFG1 with a OOT Hundo Faster Quest run. If you love watching OOT but you don't quite love cutscenes, well, congrats. You can watch an hour shorter Hundo run. And then towards with that Fire any % OOT run, if you want to see a game just be completely destroyed, that will be a highlight. We've also got some other really nice like indie gems and other smaller games. Like, I'm actually really excited. There's going to be a Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland run, and I 100% of that game 3 times as a kid. I'm really, really excited to see how this run goes. And then Troy of Athens, he does a lot with Celeste Comms. He's actually going to be doing a run of Owlboy, which is this just beautiful looking indie game with some really nice speed tech too. In a way, it looks like I don't know, like it looks like Celeste with a lot more brown tones is one way to describe it, and without quite as fast movement. So a lot to be excited for, and a lot to be excited for right now as Stravos with this entry into Bowser's Kingdom. This first like minute and a half, 2 minutes, not super eventful, but now he's going to be moving into the real meat of the kingdom here.
People make it the way they want to play, because Sui is probably going to try to make this first part a little bit more eventful. He goes for this very neat looking strat on that second island here. Let's see how he's going to be able to do this. He's going to be going for a triple jump off of that crate and then a spin point of this little slab, and then actually wall jumps on the side, but they're capturing it wire. Makes that look really awesome.
Nice little couple of seconds time save.
Let's see if the Ogre is a little bit nicer to him. If we look back, he actually missed that spin point the last time, and he will actually do that again. He goes for a very tight angle, so it's definitely hard to buffer both spins mid-dive if you dive for such a short amount of time, but won't really lose much time. Just has to jump back and then go for the backup ground pound.
Yeah, if it does save time, I think it only saved like fractions of a second. I think it just looked more swaggy ultimately.
Yeah, there's actually the other strat that we could do. There is a way of making that even faster, which is something that's people have called free in the past. I think Tischel was like a community member, obviously, as well. But it's actually really hard. But if you want to check what is the fastest known strat at this point in time, you can always just check the best theoretical time sheet, because it basically has everything. Like, there's almost nothing that we theorize that is not on there yet. It's a really small minority. So if you want to see the actual fastest strat, you can find it there pretty much.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate how insane. Oh, SuisaigaW cannot grab this shard for anything. Is finally able to get Cappy to home in on it. Unfortunate time loss. Still able to meet a decent point in the bomb cycle though. But if you've been keeping up with RTA runs, obviously the top runners have been fighting for those sub-hour times and just barely managed to squeak out a couple of seconds, with Chaos, of course, with that April Fool's prank of a lifetime with a 59:58 current world record. But BTT is now a 57-minute time. So if you want to see some really insane Odyssey gameplay, the BTT is for you. There's some just ridiculous strats there that pull the time down even further than these guys have managed to squeak out. So yeah, Harry at first, you know, I'm going to go ahead and keep my mouth shut this time around. I see that I may be a little bit outnumbered by the competition that
now, the thing
seems
is,
to really value all purple coins.
The thing is, you really are not outnumbered at all. I feel like Topper first has definitely become the community favorite. Stravos actually with a little bit of a mistake right there, taking damage. But yeah, it seems like the competitors itself used to stick with this. This was what the early competitors used to do, Shaden, I am Tendo, or whatever you want to call them, Valu, and so on and so forth. So it used to be the strategy of choice, and people learning the game just basically copied them. So who can you blame? It's still my personal choice. It just reminds me of the progression of this game. But there's obviously some memers like you guys that want to change things up, so I'm not going to be mad about you.
Look, all moons, no post game. It is the supreme meme category, and as such, it makes Topper first have that little extra bit of intrinsic value. As Stravos getting to my favorite music drop of the game.
Just check the leaderboards. 5 runners for all moons no post game. Definitely great category. Now all moons no, all purple coins has 13. So that's actually facts, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. I see how you're gonna fight.
No, I mean, I'm not fighting. I'm just reading.
I know.
All right, good stuff. Now going into the last portion here of Bowser's that climb, but then the mech, and Stravos had one of these big crucial mech faults happen to him in one of this serious race. Hopefully avoiding it this time for his sake, but that would be exactly what could cause him to drop his now pretty comfortable lead.
We have SuisaigaW just now collecting that story moon, going to be able to move into this last little section with the crates and the last vertical climb. So Stravos certainly wanting this uphill climb and 4 spin pounds to go as beautifully as possible. Is able to get these first 2 hits pretty nicely.
Yeah, once again, that's crucial. That's the easy part for most of these runners, but it's the worst mistake if you make a mistake there. Actually, missing the first bubble is not too bad. You can at least climb up the max legs again, but that second one being such a big time loss, it's heartbreaking if that happens. But Stravos actually with a little bit of, making us take a little bit of a breather last time, because he almost missed that spin pound as the mech was turning. Hopefully being able to get it this time, gets clean dives, and is able to this time.
Very nice target acquired. Okay.
Count it perfectly on the right side of that bubble, and he's through this. It's only Moon now that is between him and Pace.
Yeah, and what was his Bowser's exit time last time around? Because this is a really nutty run so far as well.
I don't think he's going to beat it. He won't actually, because he got a 55-16, and he's about to touch this moon at like 20, which means it's going to be a 25.
Okay, I forgot exactly how much over a minute the whole ending cutscene and such took.
Yeah, it might have been a 55-18 or 55-16, but it's looking to be a 55-25 or 24. So he's probably on pace to still get a 100 4x, which is once again amazing if he doesn't make a mistake. 2 100s is just exactly what you want going into an event like Pace. But we still have a race happening here, so if he makes a mistake, not only is his time gone, but Sui can get the second race.
Yeah,
And we can go
certainly Sui in a still decent position for that comeback of the century to force a game 3. The onus is going to be on Stravos to make a mistake, but as we've seen so many times in the past, but Suisaiga nailing his own coffin shut from the inside. I am not sure of the logistics for that, but missing target acquired.
Too close. He's too close.
Massive time loss.
He is too close there. That dive actually bonked against the mech, so he was just a little bit too close. He goes for this very optimal backup right here, which is going to allow him to just hold onto this race with his small finger. If Stravos makes a mistake here in Moonskip, if Stravos makes a mistake in Escape, that is what he needed to have that one chance remaining. But it's looking grim. It's all about Stravos, hopefully closing this out in Moon. But if he dies, Sui has this one little shot.
Yep, I mean, Stravos certainly has to be just zeroed in, completely focused, not let anything slip by just from pure accident. There's a lot of little things in Moon that are optimized to the point that if he does lose that concentration and just ends up relying on muscle memory that for whatever reason goes bad, he could be incurring massive time losses. So better vector though from the beginning, it looks like. I believe the first time around he had to do the cap throw, so at least able to get a dive out of it this time. Roll bounce is good, no bonk today.
Let's mainly focus on this Moon cave skip. Now, Stravos definitely has learned his lesson. He had this one weird occurrence happen to him where he did make that skip just fine. But once you actually land on the very top, there is this kind of sloped surface that we actually walk on to get a jump off. This one. And he definitely learned his lesson because he walked on it a long time. That time where that happened to him, he just walked on it for a couple frames. The game did not register him actually touching the ground, so it didn't give him a cap dive, and he died. But he avoided it this time, so he's only one Bowser fight and escape short of making it to Pace as our fourth competitor.
Yep, and that is that last golden ticket. You know, unlike the Chocolate Factory, we have printed 12 of them, 4 for each of these leagues. 11 already claimed. The last one, Stravos very, very nearly has within his grasp. Just has to finish out this run, and it will be his for the taking.
No, absolutely. Now, the thing is, what makes this a little bit less exciting is usually this Bowser fight is actually very thrilling to watch when a race is close, because even though these guys have been getting phenomenal at grabbing those heads, missing a head grab here can lose you between 8 and 12 seconds, depending on which phase you're on and how many heads Bowser has to realign, which this potential time loss kind of is invalid at this difference here, because he could technically make 2 mistakes and it wouldn't still matter, but what does matter is the escape. That's where the big time is still lurking.
Yeah, just one fail on that 2D skip could put him a lot closer to ending up having to race yet one more game that could end up swinging in Suisaiga's favor.
No, I personally have not seen Stravos die to 2D skip. There's this legendary clip where he actually lost a little bit of time in that section to make that frame perfect tie happen with curbs, where he like jumped and his head kind of hit the wall there for a little bit. Suisaiga rolling off the... Oh my god, the backup? No.
Oh, no!
The wall kicked down. What was that? And
no sort of checkpoint on top of the bridge there. Gonna have to redo his skip. I think...
It's kind of anticlimactic.
Starting from the Odyssey.
Yeah, obviously, there's no checkpoint. There is one, but it's like to the very far right. We don't grab that at all. And with that, we can almost certainly say that Stravos is going to be our last competitor for Pace. I don't want to make that final shot because there is this absurd, absolutely unfeasible option of him making multiple mistakes during an escape section. But it would be an absolute atrocity. It would be absolutely unbelievable if that happened. So Stravos is looking to make his final strides here to finish this run.
Yeah, you know, here's certainly hoping that you haven't just made the clip that much sweeter if it does happen, but you know, this is really the Monka. If he's able to get past this, it's pretty well free. There are of course those few holes in the pillar room, but 2D skip's still a pretty big Monka, and it is good as long as he's not going to go for that really risky second one. for whatever reason. There is like that weird second jump that you can make in that
Oh
second
yeah,
screen.
that's the infamous XD skip. Doesn't save anything, but people love it regardless, just because of the name probably. I don't even know who made that up. It doesn't save time. It's just a style strat.
It's certainly a beautiful name. Stravos setting up nicely for this pillar room. He knows where those where those holes are going to be, and of course is going to have a watchful eye on those platforms. So, looks like he's got his 4 in, and yeah, should be seeing that. Yep. So when the camera zooms out like that, you pretty well know that that first pillar got hit. It's a little bit subtle, but once you've seen enough pillar rooms, and especially once you've seen it not happen enough, you'll be able to recognize it pretty reliably.
Very good third pillar here, though. Meteor's blocking him a little bit once again. Very unfortunate, but this should be the last pillar falling. And Stravos is looking at another 100 to qualify for pace as our 4th competitor. Amazing job by him. This man deserves it. His race performance all throughout GSA has been phenomenal. And this is going to be a treat of matchups here. 2 100s. I mean, come on, dude. These 4 guys will go head to head.
Huge GGs for Stravos, closing out a very, very nice, like you said, double 100s to close out the final playoff match of Season 1 of Pace Season 1 of GSA before we end up moving into those live finals at Pace. So, again, thank you to all of our runners, not just these 2 guys today, not just the SMO League, but every single person that has signed up to compete in these initial tournament races that we've had. We could not do what we have done so far without all of you. So GG's not only to Stravos for just an excellent race performance today, but for everyone who has come and competed, and especially to the guys who will be competing live in Laurel, Maryland in just a couple of weeks. Let's see if we can get these guys in for one last interview. Before,
I do also wanna credit SuisaigaW here, because he this matchup once again has been the most pleasing and exciting, I think. I mean, Econ versus Curbs is a close runner-up for me, because we had that amazing sub-hour time from Curbs and silly, insane stuff from Econ even. But this has been so cool to watch Suisaiga, even while playing another speed game currently mainly, and he's getting amazing at it, still showing how strong of a competitor he is, having some huge and unfortunate mistakes happen to him. But this matchup is actually historic for me. These 2 guys show the best of themselves in these races, and huge credit for Stui as well for still showing us a great race in all games.
Yeah.
I mean, think back of the beginning of this one. This was just a treat.
Oh yeah, near perfect sing for a while, and then the nice back and forth leads. The just unfortunate mistakes from Suisaiga costing him major time, like that death and loss. And after that, just seemed to kind of start piling up, unfortunately. But Stravos, I mean, even if Suisaiga would have been just completely on his A game, Stravos did not leave him much room to take this win. So just wonderful performance from both of them to go ahead and close out this last matchup. But as Suisaiga finishing up Pillars, just wanted to go ahead and say real fast, we are still having a couple of races tomorrow. They're just not going to be involved in any sort of live finals or anything like that. We will be having our Diddy Kong Racing Grand Finals tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. If you've never seen DKR, it's a super nice racing speed game, and those time trial finals should be really nice. But if Mario is more your thing, we will be having the tax competition live results for SM64 at 5:30 p.m. EST. And then if that still doesn't scratch your speed game itch, don't worry. We've got a 100% tournament Mega Man X match at 9 p.m. So a few little races to go ahead and keep the hype going until Pace, which of course, again, will be occurring the 25th of April. Nice 103 from Suisaiga, as we now have Stravos in the call with us. Stravos, first off, congrats on securing that last Pace spot. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. Those were good race times. I'm very happy with. Was it a 36 the first time? If so,
Yep.
It's 6 seconds off my PB and 12 seconds off my PB. So you can't really ask for too much better than that.
Yup, just certainly insane times, and especially were you watching Suisaiga's screen, because the second race started out with some pretty insane sync all the way through loss.
No, I'm gonna have to rewatch them, because after the last races we did, I figured that I needed a way to relieve my anxiety, because I was feeling really bad during those races because I was just too nervous. Somehow I made it through the first set that we did perfectly fine, but the second one just, I don't know, it it really affected me. So this time I didn't look at anything. I just concentrated on my own race, just in peace, and just left it at that. And I
And
think that was the right decision.
Yep, certainly the results speak for themselves. And I mean, I've got to ask, how nervous were you going into that game too, knowing that it was in your hands to go ahead and close off this matchup? But if you kind of lost that little bit of focus, if you weren't able to play up to par, you would have ended up having to deal with a game 3. How was that tension going into that game too?
I mean, all yesterday, I forced myself to do just a ton of no resets and just get used to doing a full run and having fun with it too. I made sure that I found a way to have fun with it. Sometimes as runners, we can't have fun just playing the whole game if we're not on good pace, right? But I made sure that I found a way to have fun and relax with it and got used to that, and that really helped going into today, I feel like, because I wasn't nervous at all. Nothing affected me. I just played normal and it was good. So if
Yeah,
anyone,
for sure.
if any speedrunners out there are struggling with their runs and feeling like they can't do as much as they feel like they should be doing, my advice is to just make completely new splits, maybe even less splits. Like I've been running on 5 splits, and just play the game and make the first split especially easy to go against if you have a custom comparison, so that you're just always ahead and just play the game.
Now, my favorite question actually to ask everybody now that has actually made it to the event which you just did. I kind of want to like shoot a little bit forward because PACE is happening in less than 2 weeks now. It's pretty crazy to think about. But how do you think will that specific environment actually affect your play? Will it influence it? I can almost not imagine how it couldn't. But do you think it will be positive? Will it be negative? Do you think you'll find your way in there with this strange and different environment?
Well, in the past, when I've done things like that, like it hasn't really bothered me that much, but it hasn't been on quite a level as Pace
Yeah.
will be as an event. But like I don't know, it hasn't really bothered me things like that in the past, so I wouldn't expect it to bother me. However, that last set, the second set against Sui, I don't know what happened. I just could not. I could not do it. So I don't know. I have no clue how to answer that. It could go either way.
It will be an extremely interesting experience for all of us, I'm sure. And I do want to quickly talk for Sui because he just brought that up in the chat. He's not right here, and he probably kind of had a similar experience than you had in this last race. Lost actually punched him in the face twice. He had that clap to trigger happening to him in his first race. The second race, he actually ended up taking 2 deaths. Almost fell after the cage triple. Had to back up there again. And this kingdom just makes you so anxious, dude, because you know the death is so close. And Klepto, and oh my god, dude, such an awkward place to make mistakes. And I think Sui showed up a great once again a great series after actually even playing some other speed games. So what a good one. You guys have really been showing this historic, amazing matchup. Like watching a Stravos and SuisaigaW race is almost guaranteed to entertain you at this point. And I'm obviously thankful for that. But guys, this is it. This is the last one of the playoff matches here. We have our 4 competitors for Super Mario Odyssey 80% at pace. It's going to be Nycro Vida, Chaos Pringle, Lil Curbs, and Stravos96. What a lineup. I cannot wait for those.
Oh, me either. It's certainly going to be a very very impressive race situation. I'm so looking forward to these live races, and like I mentioned just before Suisaiga got that finish, we do have a few events tomorrow, as well as we do have some nice little things starting up next week. We've got some 70 star Division 2 for all of you. So the 70 star that will be at Pace is only Division 1, unfortunately. But the Div 2 has some pretty nice players with some really interesting races that have happened. So definitely go check out some of those finals. And we've also got some 16 star coming up then, as well as Mario Kart Double Dash playoffs. So we won't leave you completely high and dry off of your speed racing desires until Pace. But unfortunately, yes, this is the last little bit of our playoffs that close off season 1. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing all of you at Pace for those live finals. It's going to be just so amazing, so hype of an event. I've been looking forward to it for months, and I'm also just super glad I was able to go ahead and calm this last playoff race with you. I believe it might be my first time calming with you, Limbs. So
Yeah,
definitely
I
happy.
questioned that, but it felt supernatural. It was a great one, I think. Good stuff.
Yeah, very nice. Last little commentary experience before that live event, which I'm certainly looking forward to. That interesting dynamic as well. So, thank you everyone for stopping by and watching. Unfortunately, that is the only event that we have scheduled today, but we hope you'll come around either for one of our events over the next couple of weeks, or of course for that really nice long stream that will be happening for Pace. So, thank you so much for coming around. And one last time, GG's to our racers. Stravos, congrats again on that playoff spot.
See you guys at Pace.
Bye.